The most ordinary experiences, the ones you often dismiss or forget, may hold the keys to unlocking your deepest potential and the power to resolve your most persistent personal mysteries. Just as memories dismissed from childhood can manifest into certain behaviors in adulthood, there exists a world of seemingly random firings that may be trying to make sense of waking life problems. What if the fleeting images of your dreams were not random noise, but carefully crafted messages from a hidden part of yourself? And what if learning to decipher these messages could rewrite your personal story and help you understand the depths of your personal being, leading you to heal wounds or even providing guidance and direction? What can a dream accomplish that waking life cannot? Since antiquity, humans have sought meaning in dreams, viewing them as divine messages, glimpses into the future, or pathways to healing. The ancient Egyptians, for example, had dream dictionaries that they believed foretold the future, offering insights into upcoming events and personal destinies. It was Carl Jung who revolutionized the understanding of dreams, viewing them not as literal prophecies, but as symbolic representations of the unconscious mind. Jung saw dreams as a way for the unconscious to communicate and balance the conscious, revealing hidden aspects of the self and providing guidance for individuation. Dreams, therefore, have been seen as the bridge connecting the physical, emotional, and spiritual parts of the human being. Indeed, many cultures use dream interpretation as a way to better understand oneself and community problems, and to find solutions to the issues that plague the waking world. However, in our modern, rationalistic world, the wisdom of dreams is often dismissed as irrational, and the important messages are subsequently ignored to our own detriment, often leading to physical ailments. When the vital messages from the unconscious are consistently suppressed, stress manifests in a number of devastating ways, resulting in high blood pressure, digestive issues, or even chronic pain, as many studies have shown. So, how can we reclaim this lost language of the unconscious and begin to understand what our dreams are desperately trying to tell us? This video will explore the hidden psychology of dreams, revealing the archetypal language of the unconscious, and providing practical tools for interpreting their symbolic messages, ultimately opening a path to greater self-understanding and personal growth. We'll delve into the Jungian perspective on dreams, explore the role of archetypes such as the shadow and anima animus, and provide practical techniques for dream analysis and interpretation, along with the consequences of ignoring the unconscious altogether. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand the theoretical underpinnings of Jungian dream analysis, but also have the tools and knowledge to begin your own journey of self-discovery through the exploration of your dreams, as well as understand the specific benefits you will receive. Like coming to a better understanding of yourself and how to tackle certain problems that plague your waking hours. So, let's begin our exploration of the hidden psychology of dreams and unlock the secrets of your unconscious mind. What if the language of your dreams held the key to unlocking the hidden chambers of your unconscious mind? Dreams are not merely random firings of neurons. They are symbolic representations of your innermost thoughts, feelings, and experiences, often bypassing the logical constraints of the conscious mind. The unconscious communicates through symbols because it transcends the limitations of rational thought and language, conveying complex emotions and ideas that are difficult to articulate directly. Just as visual art is a language of emotion and metaphor, dreams paint the human experience in broad and exaggerated strokes. Imagine your unconscious as a vast, uncharted territory, teeming with hidden treasures and forgotten memories. While the conscious mind relies on logic and reason to navigate the world, the unconscious operates on a different plane, communicating through symbols, metaphors, and archetypal images. To begin to interpret the messages from this inner world, we must learn its language. It's much like learning a new language that initially seems foreign, but with practice, reveals a wealth of meaning and understanding. What techniques can we use to achieve that level of fluency? Dream language is a fascinating blend of personal and universal symbols. Your childhood home, for instance, may appear in your dream as a personal symbol of safety and nostalgia. However, it may also represent the universal idea of the self, with different rooms symbolizing different aspects of your personality. Carl Jung viewed the unconscious as a vast reservoir of personal and collective experiences, instincts, and archetypes, influencing our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. How did Jung come to this conclusion? He differentiated between the personal unconscious, which contains repressed memories, forgotten experiences, and subliminal perceptions unique to each individual, and the collective unconscious, which houses universal patterns of behavior and imagery known as archetypes. Archetypes like the hero, the shadow, and the anima animus are recurring motifs that transcend cultural boundaries, appearing in myths, legends, and dreams across the globe. Dreams, according to Jung, are the primary means by which the unconscious attempts to communicate with the conscious mind. They offer insights, warnings, and potential solutions to whacking life problems, acting as a balancing force between our conscious and unconscious selves. Consider dreams as a nightly balancing act, striving to bring equilibrium to the psyche and illuminate areas that have been neglected or suppressed. Suppressed emotions or ignored problems often manifest as potent symbols in our dreams. But what happens when these desperate cries from the unconscious are ignored? Consider the case of a young professional who repeatedly dreamt of being chased by a shadowy figure through a dark forest. Initially, he dismissed the dream as a product of stress and anxiety. However, upon closer examination, it became clear that the shadowy figure represented a suppressed fear of failure and unresolved conflict with his overbearing boss. As an adult, this person continues to dream of being chased by a childhood bully, resulting in anxiety in their relationships. How do you stop it, or consider a dream involving water? Clear, tranquil water might symbolize peace, emotional clarity, and the smooth flow of life, while murky, turbulent water could represent uncertainty, confusion, and repressed emotions. The symbolic nature of water extends beyond its emotional connotations. It can also represent the unconscious itself, the vast, unexplored depths of the psyche. What happens when the waters are muddied by conscious influence? Dreams featuring houses are particularly rich in symbolism, with different rooms representing different aspects of the personality. The attic might symbolize the intellect, the basement the shadow, and the living room the persona or public self. In one of Jung's cases, a patient dreamt repeatedly of a house with a locked room in the basement. Through dream analysis, it was revealed that the locked room represented a traumatic childhood experience that had been repressed for years, impacting the patient's adult life in devastating ways. Only by confronting what they had locked away were they able to recover. In essence, understanding dreams as symbolic messages from the unconscious mind is crucial for unlocking deeper self-awareness and personal growth. The unconscious is like a compass, pointing you in directions you might be ignoring in your waking life. However, simply knowing about dream symbolism is not enough. One must actively engage with the dream and analyze its meaning. And ignored mental stress can manifest as physical ailments. Just as unresolved emotional conflicts can manifest as physical symptoms, unacknowledged messages from the unconscious can lead to psychological distress and even physical illness, as some studies show. Therefore, it is important to be active, to begin to actively engage with dreams and analyze its meaning. But what are some practical techniques for dream analysis that we can use? What we'll discover next are some practical techniques for dream analysis, such as journaling, active imagination, and dream amplification, opening up the opportunity to understand the hidden psychology of dreams, leading to greater self-awareness, emotional healing, and personal growth. Why is understanding dreams so important to our well-being? What if you could step inside your dreams, actively shaping their narrative and directly communicating with the hidden figures of your unconscious? Instead of passively receiving disjointed visions, Imagine actively exploring and affecting the dream world, becoming the director of your own inner theater. This active approach to dream analysis is not about simply decoding symbols from a distance, but rather engaging in a dynamic conversation with your inner self, much like a waking dialogue with a trusted friend or a challenging debate with an inner adversary. But what potential lies within such active engagement? Dream analysis, when approached actively, becomes a transformative process. Dreams can become a sandbox for the mind, a safe space to experiment with different solutions to whacking life problems and resolve inner conflicts. Instead of merely observing the drama unfold, you become a participant, influencing the narrative and unlocking creative potential that might otherwise remain dormant. The unconscious, when engaged in this way, can reveal hidden strengths, provide insights into recurring patterns, and offer guidance on navigating life's challenges. Yet, such exploration requires a method, a way to capture the fleeting images and begin a meaningful conversation. What tool can provide the necessary foothold into this fluid landscape? Dream journaling serves as the foundational technique for capturing and reflecting on dream experiences. The urgency to write down the dream immediately upon waking stems from its ephemeral nature, like trying to grasp smoke. The details fade quickly, so having a pen and paper or a recording device nearby is essential. This process extends beyond simply jotting down the narrative. It involves capturing sensory details, the vivid images, the echoing sounds, the lingering smells, and most importantly, the emotions that permeated the dreamscape. But what nuances should one look for when transcribing these sensory experiences? Breaking down the journaling process into actionable steps involves a comprehensive approach. Consider, for instance, what you ate, drank, or did before bed, as these can influence dream content. Note the emotions that were at play during the day, as unresolved feelings often surface in dreams. Record even seemingly insignificant details, as they may hold symbolic meaning. Consistency is key. Dreams can be fleeting, so establishing a regular journaling habit helps increase awareness of their significance. This consistent practice enhances dream recall and facilitates pattern recognition, allowing you to identify recurring themes and symbols that resonate deeply with your personal experiences. But is there more to journaling than simply recording? Introduce incubation as an intentional journaling technique, a deliberate attempt to engage the dream world for guidance. Before bed, formulate a specific question or identify a whacking life problem that you seek to resolve. Ask the dream to provide insights or solutions, and then record the results upon waking. This proactive approach transforms the dream from a passive experience into an active dialogue, inviting the unconscious to participate in problem-solving and decision-making. But how does this recording process translate into direct communication with the unconscious? Active imagination, as developed by Carl Jung, provides a powerful means for consciously engaging with dream figures and symbols, fostering a direct dialogue with the unconscious. Jung saw active imagination as a bridge between the conscious and unconscious realms, a way of understanding his patients and himself. It's a process of revisiting a dream image in a waking state, allowing the image to evolve spontaneously and meticulously recording the unfolding narrative, as if transcribing a play directly from the stage of the mind. So, how does one begin this engagement? Describe the practice by selecting one compelling symbol or figure from a dream and letting it become the focus of the active imagination. Close your eyes, visualize the symbol, and allow it to transform and interact with you. Ask it questions, listen to its responses, and record the entire exchange without judgment or censorship. The key is to allow the unconscious to express itself freely without the interference of the conscious mind's rational control. But what distinguishes this process from mere fantasy? Maintaining a conscious awareness of oneself during active imagination is paramount, distinguishing it from passive fantasy or uncontrolled reverie. It's a waking state, not a daydream. You are not going to sleep. You are consciously directing your attention inward, engaging with the unconscious in a deliberate and focused manner. This active participation prevents the process from devolving into a mere escape from reality, ensuring that the insights gained are integrated into conscious awareness. How did Jung come to discover such a technique? Jung's personal experience with active imagination, as chronicled in the Red Book, highlights its transformative impact on his psychological development. The Red Book stands as a testament to Jung's own exploration of the unconscious through active imagination, filled with the visions and insights that emerged from his inner journey. Jung confronts archetypal figures and engages in dialogues with his soul, ultimately leading to a profound understanding of himself and the human psyche. This intensely personal exploration underscores the potential of active imagination to unlock hidden depth of the unconscious and facilitate profound psychological growth. But what is the end result of employing such techniques? In essence, dream journaling helps to record and understand, while active imagination lets you ask questions and receive answers, making them powerful tools for fostering self-awareness, resolving inner conflicts, and facilitating communication with the unconscious. Journaling provides a written record of the dream landscape, while active imagination allows for direct interaction with its inhabitants. These practices lay the groundwork for deeper dream analysis techniques, enabling a more nuanced and comprehensive understanding of the messages emanating from the unconscious. What techniques will help you to understand your dreams, to go beyond simply recording them? Having laid the groundwork with journaling and active imagination, we now turn to techniques that will unlock deeper meaning within the dream narrative. What are archetypes, and how can they help unlock your dream meanings? The next step involves exploring archetypal themes and analyzing symbolic patterns, delving into the rich tapestry of the collective unconscious to decipher the hidden messages woven into the fabric of our dreams. This constant look inward is a journey towards the most authentic self. What techniques can truly unlock your dreams, allowing you to move beyond mere recording and into genuine understanding? The answer, in part, lies in recognizing the archetypes that populate the dream world. Archetypes are universal, primordial patterns of behavior, imagery, and instinct that reside in the collective unconscious, manifesting vividly in our dreams. They are not simply specific images, but rather predispositions to respond to the world in certain ways, pre-existing patterns that shape our perceptions and reactions. These archetypes function as the structural elements that shape the narrative and emotional landscape of our dreams, imbuing them with profound meaning and significance. Think of them as the underlying architecture upon which the unique story of each dream is built. Consider, for instance, some of the common archetypes that frequently appear in dreams: the Great Mother, representing nurturing and the unconscious; the wise old man, embodying wisdom and guidance; the ever-present shadow, the repository of our repressed selves. Recognizing these figures is like learning the grammar of a hidden language. But what is the value of learning this language? By recognizing these archetypes within your dreams, you gain access to invaluable insights into your own psychological makeup and a deeper connection to the universal human experience. It's akin to discovering a shared language that transcends individual differences, revealing the common threads that bind us all. The archetypes speak to fundamental aspects of the human condition. This connection to something larger than oneself can be profoundly grounding. What specific forms do these archetypes take in the landscape of our dreams? Let's delve into some specific examples of common dream archetypes, exploring their symbolic meanings and psychological significance. First, consider the hero. This archetype represents the ego's journey towards self-realization, a path often fraught with challenges, trials, and transformative experiences. Imagine a dream where you find yourself lost in an unfamiliar landscape, only to be confronted by a seemingly insurmountable obstacle. Suddenly, an unlikely ally appears, offering guidance or assistance. This dream is not merely a random occurrence. It's a symbolic representation of your own inner journey, the challenges you face, and the potential for growth and transformation. What about the darker figures that populate our dreams? Then there is the shadow. This archetype represents the repressed or disowned aspects of the personality, those parts of ourselves that we often try to hide or deny. It often appears as a dark figure, a monster, or some other threatening presence. Consider a recurring dream where a dark figure is constantly trying to convince you to commit terrible acts. This is not necessarily a premonition, but it almost certainly points to inner turmoil, repressed anger, or self-criticism that needs to be addressed. But what about the idealized figures that sometimes grace our dreams? The anima animus represents the feminine anima in a man's psyche, or the masculine animus side of the personality in a woman's psyche. It often appears as an idealized or romantic figure, embodying the qualities and characteristics that we find most attractive or desirable. Imagine dreaming of a perfect romantic partner, someone who embodies all your ideal qualities, but whose face is always just slightly out of view. This dream might be highlighting your own unrealized potential or your relationship with the opposite sex. What if your dream is of a peaceful, nurturing figure? The Great Mother archetype represents nurturing, fertility, and the unconscious itself. It often appears as a maternal figure, a bountiful natural landscape, or some other symbol of creation and sustenance. Picture a dream where you find yourself in a lush forest, feeling safe, secure, and utterly at peace. A beautiful woman watches over you, emanating feelings of unconditional love and warmth. This dream may be tapping into your deepest need for nurturing and connection. What about the figures who seem to offer guidance? Finally, consider the wise old man. This archetype represents wisdom, guidance, and insight, often appearing as an elderly mentor, a spiritual leader, or some other figure of authority. Imagine a dream where you are lost and confused, only to encounter a wise old man who offers you cryptic instructions that ultimately guide you on your path. This dream suggests that you are seeking guidance and direction in your life. To see how these archetypes might manifest, let's look at some case studies. Consider the case of a successful businessman who found himself plagued by a recurring dream. He was always being followed by a shadowy figure, just out of sight. Initially, he dismissed the dream as mere stress, but the anxiety it provoked began to seep into his waking life, fueling self-doubt and hindering his decision-making. Through dream analysis, it became clear that the shadow figure represented his own inner critic, the relentless voice that constantly questioned his abilities and undermined his confidence. By acknowledging and integrating this shadow aspect, he was able to silence the inner critic and regain his sense of self-assurance. Has something similar happened to you? Or consider a woman who consistently dreamed of an ideal man, a perfect romantic partner, yet felt utterly unworthy of his attention. In her waking life, she struggled with deep-seated insecurities, preventing her from pursuing promotions at work or forming meaningful relationships. The anima figure in her dreams revealed her idealized self, the woman she aspired to be, but also highlighted the chasm between her ideal and her self-perception. By recognizing and addressing her feelings of unworthiness, she began to bridge that gap, taking steps toward greater self-acceptance and empowerment. What if the dream is not about your own internal struggles, but about your life's trajectory? Consider the dream of a student who faced numerous challenges throughout their academic journey, encountering setbacks, obstacles, and moments of profound self-doubt. Yet, in their dreams, they were consistently supported and guided by a series of wise teachers, each offering unique insights and encouragement. This dream, upon analysis, revealed itself as a symbolic representation of the hero's journey, the student's personal quest for knowledge, growth, and self-discovery. The teachers represented the inner resources and external support systems that were helping them navigate the challenges of their academic path. In essence, these archetypes serve as universal patterns of behavior and imagery, providing a framework for understanding the symbolic language of dreams. Understanding archetypes, then, is akin to learning a universal language, a key to unlocking the hidden messages of the unconscious. Yet, while archetypes provide a valuable foundation for dream interpretation, it is equally important to consider the personal context and unique experiences of the dreamer. How can we integrate the universal language of archetypes with the intensely personal narratives of our own lives? As we move forward, we will explore techniques for personalizing dream interpretation, connecting dream symbols to waking life experiences, and integrating the insights gained into our conscious awareness. Understanding the archetypal language of dreams can lead to greater self-awareness, emotional healing, and a deeper connection to the collective unconscious. Ignoring the archetypes risks a spiritual disconnect, a sense of being adrift from the deeper currents of human experience. Are you ready to translate your own dreams? What if the most frightening figure in your dreams isn't a monster to be feared, but a messenger trying to deliver a vital piece of yourself? Have you ever awoken from a nightmare and wondered, could that darkness really be me? It's a chilling thought, isn't it? These unsettling encounters may be manifestations of what Carl Jung termed the shadow, the disowned or repressed aspects of your personality that often manifest in the theater of your dreams. Perhaps you've been told you're too aggressive, but you believe yourself passive. Or maybe you've been accused of being cold when you see yourself as emotional. Such conflicts can trigger frightening dreams. Ignoring your shadow in dreams is akin to ignoring a critical part of your psyche, a part that could be influencing your waking life in ways you don't even realize. But what is the shadow exactly? In Jungian psychology, the shadow is an archetype representing the repressed or disowned aspects of the personality, those undesirable traits, suppressed emotions, and rejected qualities that we deem unacceptable to ourselves or to society. Think of it as a darkroom where we store all the uncomfortable truths about ourselves, the parts we don't want others or even our Sylvesto see. This repression is often a result of societal expectations, parental disapproval, and personal traumas. We learn early on which aspects of ourselves are acceptable and which are not, leading us to bury those unacceptable parts deep within our unconscious. This process of repression contributes to the formation of the shadow, a repository of all that we deny and disown. Compounding this process is what is known as projection, a defense mechanism where we attribute our own shadow qualities to others. Projection manifests in dreams as seeing others exhibit those qualities that we refuse to acknowledge in ourselves. For instance, someone who struggles with anger might dream of others flying into uncontrollable rages, blind to their own simmering resentment. It's a convenient way to avoid confronting our own inner demons, but it ultimately prevents us from achieving psychological wholeness. It is critical to remember that the shadow is not inherently evil. The shadow contains both negative and positive qualities, what some Jungians refer to as the gold in the shadow. This means that within those repressed aspects of ourselves lie untapped creativity, assertiveness, or passion. Someone who has always been told to be quiet and compliant might dream of a powerful, rebellious figure who defies authority. This figure represents the dreamer's own repressed assertiveness, a quality that, if integrated, could lead to greater self-confidence and personal fulfillment. By understanding the shadow, we can better understand not just the dream world, but the waking world and our true potential. To see the shadow in action, let's look at some examples of how it manifests in the dream world. Consider the case of a dreamer who repeatedly dreamed of being attacked by a shadowy figure. This person worked in customer service and was constantly told to be nice, to smile, to be accommodating, no matter how rude or demanding the customers were. In their dream, however, they violently assaulted a customer, unleashing years of repressed anger and frustration. Through dream analysis, it was revealed that the shadowy figure represented the dreamer's repressed anger and self-criticism, emotions that they felt unable to express in their waking life. By acknowledging and integrating these shadow aspects, the dreamer was able to set healthier boundaries and assert themselves more effectively in their interactions with others. Or imagine a dreamer who is deathly afraid of spiders. In their dream, spiders overrun their home, crawling on the walls, the ceiling, even their own body. This dream isn't necessarily a literal fear of spiders, but it could symbolize repressed fears, insecurities, or unacceptable desires that the dreamer is struggling to confront. The spiders in this case might represent feelings of being overwhelmed, controlled, or invaded, all aspects of the dreamer's shadow that need to be brought into conscious awareness. Then there is the hardworking, kind person who dreams that they are rich and cruel, reveling in the suffering of others. This doppelganger, this evil twin, is a representation of the dreamer's darker impulses or hidden potential. It's the part of them that longs for power, for control, for the freedom to act without regard for others. While these impulses may seem disturbing, they can also be a source of untapped ambition and drive, qualities that, if channeled appropriately, could lead to great success. In fact, a powerful yet dark figure in your dream might even be asking for help instead of attacking. Ultimately, recognizing and understanding the shadow archetype in dreams is a pathway to greater self-awareness and psychological integration. Only through recognition and integration can we approach a complete self, a state of wholeness that embraces both our light and our darkness. But what steps do we need to take in order to complete shadow integration? What happens when you ignore the desperate cries from your unconscious? And how can we consciously be more aware of our projections, those subtle ways in which we disown our own darkness and attribute it to others? The answers may surprise you. What if the very traits you despise in yourself hold the key to unlocking your greatest potential? Have you considered that the path to wholeness isn't about eliminating your darkness, but embracing it? Shadow integration isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming real. This is the heroic task of shadow integration, an active and courageous journey toward wholeness. It requires facing uncomfortable truths about oneself, acknowledging those disowned aspects of your personality that you'd rather keep hidden. But why is it so difficult? The resistance to shadow integration stems from a deep-seated fear of confronting the darker aspects of our personality, a fear of what we might find lurking in the depths of our unconscious. It's the fear of judgment, both from ourselves and from others. What will people think if they see the real me, the one with all the flaws and imperfections? What if I'm not as good, as kind, or as strong as I thought I was? This desire to maintain a positive self-image, to present a flawless facade to the world, often prevents us from embarking on this essential journey. However, shadow integration is essential for psychological maturity, authenticity, and the ability to form genuine connections with others. Only through shadow integration can we be our authentic selves, embracing both our light and our darkness, and live our most fulfilling lives. Moreover, the shadow, if left unexamined, has a way of subtly influencing our waking life, coloring our perceptions, shaping our behaviors, and even sabotaging our relationships. So, how do we begin this heroic task? What tools can we use to explore the shadowy depths of our unconscious and integrate those disowned aspects of ourselves? One of the most powerful tools for engaging with shadow figures in dreams is active imagination. But what is active imagination, exactly, and how does it help us befriend the monsters in our dreams? Active imagination, a technique developed by Carl Jung, is a process of consciously engaging with the unconscious through imagery, dialogue, and symbolic expression. It's a way of entering into a direct relationship with the figures and forces that populate our inner world, including the shadow. To engage in active imagination, one typically begins by recalling a dream image or encounter, such as a recurring shadow figure. Then, instead of simply analyzing the image, you actively engage with it, allowing it to speak, move, and interact with you. You might ask the shadow figure questions, express your feelings towards it, or simply observe its behavior. Through this process of active engagement, you can begin to understand the shadow's motivations, its fears, and its unmet needs. Another powerful technique for shadow integration is dream re-entry. But how can we consciously return to the dream world, and what can we expect to find there? Dream re-entry involves consciously returning to a dream while in a waking state, with the intention of confronting or interacting with a specific dream figure or situation. This can be done through visualization, meditation, or lucid dreaming techniques. To re-enter a dream, find a quiet space where you can relax and focus your attention. Close your eyes and visualize the dream scene as vividly as possible, recalling the sights, sounds, and emotions you experienced in the dream. Once you feel fully immersed in the dream world, imagine yourself approaching the shadow figure and engaging with it directly. Ask it questions, express your feelings, or simply observe its behavior. Be open to whatever arises, without judgment or expectation. The goal of dream re-entry is not to control or manipulate the dream, but to explore it with curiosity and compassion. Beyond these dream-focused techniques, there are also shadow work exercises that can be done in our waking lives. What are some specific journaling prompts or artistic practices that can help us explore and integrate our shadow qualities? Shadow work exercises involve consciously exploring and expressing our repressed emotions, rejected qualities, and disowned aspects of ourselves through various creative modalities. Journaling can be a powerful tool for shadow work, allowing us to explore our thoughts and feelings in a safe and non-judgmental space. Specific journaling prompts that can be helpful include: what are my greatest fears? What qualities do I dislike most in others? What are my earliest memories of shame or guilt? Artistic expression, such as painting, drawing, or sculpting, can also be a powerful way to engage with the shadow. By creating images or representations of our shadow qualities, we can bring them into conscious awareness and begin to integrate them into our personality. Role-playing, where you act out scenarios that trigger your shadow, can also be a helpful tool for understanding and integrating repressed emotions. Regardless of the technique, it's also of the utmost importance to approach shadow work with self-compassion and non-judgment. But what does self-compassion have to do with shadow integration, and why is it so essential? Self-compassion involves treating yourself with kindness, understanding, and acceptance, especially when you're struggling or experiencing difficult emotions. It means recognizing that you're not perfect, that everyone makes mistakes, and that it's okay to have flaws and imperfections. When engaging with the shadow, it's essential to approach your disowned qualities with self-compassion, recognizing that they are a part of you and that they deserve your understanding and acceptance. Judging or condemning your shadow qualities will only lead to further repression and disownment, perpetuating the cycle of negativity. Instead, try to approach your shadow with curiosity, compassion, and a willingness to learn and grow. To see the transformative power of shadow integration in action, let's consider some real-world examples. Imagine an individual who dreamed of a monstrous figure constantly attacking them, filling them with terror and dread. Initially, they tried to run from the monster to suppress it, to deny its existence. But the more they resisted, the more persistent and frightening the monster became. Eventually, they decided to try a different approach. In their dreams, they began to approach the monster, to ask it questions, to show it kindness and compassion. To their surprise, the monster began to soften, to reveal its own vulnerabilities and fears. Through this process of active engagement, the individual realized that the monster represented their own repressed anger, their own feelings of inadequacy and worthlessness. By befriending the monster in their dreams, they were able to integrate those disowned aspects of themselves, leading to greater self-acceptance and emotional resilience. Or consider the case of someone who consciously re-entered a recurring nightmare to confront a shadowy figure. This person had been plagued by a nightmare for years, in which they were chased through a dark forest by a menacing figure with glowing red eyes. The nightmare left them feeling anxious and terrified, and they dreaded going to sleep each night. Through dream re-entry, they decided to confront the shadowy figure directly. In their dream, they turned to face the figure and asked it, "What do you want?" To their surprise, the figure didn't attack them, but simply stood there, silently gazing at them with a sad expression. As they continued to interact with the figure, they realized that it represented their own repressed grief, their own feelings of loss and abandonment. By acknowledging and integrating these shadow aspects, the nightmare stopped, and they experienced a profound sense of healing and closure. What about the impact of shadow work exercises on our waking lives? Someone who had been used their whole life, constantly giving to others without regard for their own needs, decided to explore their repressed anger and assertiveness through shadow work exercises. They began by journaling about their feelings of resentment and frustration, allowing themselves to express their anger without judgment or censorship. They also began to practice saying no to unreasonable requests, setting healthier boundaries, and asserting their own needs and desires. As they continued to engage in shadow work, they experienced a profound shift in their relationships, becoming more authentic, more assertive, and more empowered. In another scenario, a person was able to become more successful by understanding the traits they envied in others. They were able to recognize that by seeing what they wanted in others, they were able to unlock their own potential by integrating those traits in themselves, thus removing their envy. Ultimately, shadow integration is a pathway to psychological wholeness, authenticity, and the ability to live a more fulfilling life. Only through understanding and embracing our inner darkness can we experience the full spectrum of human emotion and personality, the full range of human potential. But why is it important to have continuous self-reflection, and how can we make shadow work a regular part of our lives? And what about the other archetypes that populate our dreams and influence our personalities? How do they interplay with the shadow, and what can we learn from their interactions? Integrating the shadow isn't a one-time event, but an ongoing process of self-discovery, requiring continuous self-reflection and dream work. Ignoring the shadow could result in a life lived inauthentically, never truly embracing your full potential. What awaits you when you explore these hidden connections? What if the recurring figure of your dreams, the mysterious woman or the enigmatic man, held the key to unlocking your creative potential and experiencing more fulfilling relationships? What if these figures, seemingly external to yourself, are actually reflections of your own inner landscape, desperate to guide you toward wholeness? It's like a looking glass version of yourself in your dreams. What are they trying to tell you? Are they offering you a glimpse into aspects of yourself you've long ignored, waiting to be integrated? Within the vast realm of the unconscious mind reside archetypes, universal patterns of thought, feeling, and behavior that shape our experiences and influence our dreams. Among these powerful figures are the anima, representing the feminine side of the male psyche, and the animus, representing the masculine side of the female psyche. These are not merely representations of the opposite gender. They are complex personifications of unconscious qualities, desires, and potentials, acting as a bridge between the conscious and unconscious realms. In essence, the anima in a man and the animus in a woman is the contrasexual side of the personality, a psychological term to balance gender ideas, not to define them. They are the inner other, influencing our emotions, moods, and relationship patterns, subtly shaping our perceptions of ourselves and the world around us. Understanding the anima animus, therefore, becomes a critical step on the path to individuation, the process of becoming a whole and integrated individual. If the anima animus is positive, the dreamer will experience fulfilling relationships and inner harmony, able to navigate the complexities of life with greater ease and self-awareness. However, failing to understand these dream figures can lead to disharmony in waking life, resulting in troubled relationships, emotional instability, and a sense of inner conflict. What happens, then, when these inner figures are ignored or misunderstood? Elaborating on this, the anima animus is not simply a reflection of the opposite sex. but a complex representation of unconscious qualities, desires, and potentials waiting to be realized. These qualities are not necessarily those traditionally associated with the opposite gender, but rather represent an integration of positive traits regardless of sex. Jung identified 4 distinct stages in the development of the anima animus, each representing a different level of psychological maturity and integration. These stages, which can be applied as levels of personal development with relation to the anima animus, are symbolized by 4 female figures for men and 4 male figures for women. For men, the first stage is represented by Eve, the primal, instinctual woman embodying pure biological drives and a connection to nature. The second stage is Helen, representing the romantic and aesthetic aspects of the anima, inspiring creativity and an appreciation for beauty. The third stage is Mary, symbolizing the spiritual and devotional qualities of the anima, fostering compassion and a connection to the divine. Finally, the fourth stage is Sophia, representing wisdom, integration, and a deep understanding of the self and the world. The animus progresses similarly, starting with the purely instinctual, primitive man, moving to the man of action and capability, then to the man of the word as priest or professor, and finally as a guide to meaning. These inner figures can manifest in both positive and negative ways. Creative inspiration can be a positive manifestation of the anima, while destructive relationships are a negative one. The anima animus is influenced by personal experiences, cultural conditioning, and inherited archetypal patterns. What our parents think is beautiful, what society thinks is beautiful, and what our mind finds beautiful all play a role in shaping these inner figures. Moreover, the anima animus is closely linked to the shadow, often embodying those repressed or disowned aspects of the personality. For instance, the animus may present as an abusive figure, reflecting a woman's internalized anger or a man's hidden capacity for cruelty. Consider the case of a man who dreams repeatedly of a seductive, yet unreliable woman, a clear manifestation of a negative anima. This man keeps getting used in relationships and feels angry and confused, unable to understand why his romantic partners consistently betray his trust. Analysis of his dreams reveals a tendency to project unrealistic expectations onto women, idealizing them, and then becoming disillusioned when they inevitably fail to meet his impossible standards. His anima, stuck in the early stages of development, reflects his own unmet needs for nurturing and validation, leading him to seek these qualities in external relationships rather than cultivating them within himself. This is a clear warning that he is disconnected from his own feeling side. In contrast, consider a woman who dreams of a wise, supportive male figure, a positive animus, guiding her through challenging situations and encouraging her to pursue her goals. The woman is given an opportunity for a promotion, but her dream guides her to take it, symbolizing her untapped potential for leadership and assertiveness. This dream suggests that she is beginning to integrate her animus, embracing her own masculine qualities and empowering herself to take on new challenges. However, dreams can also reveal conflict within the anima animus dynamic. A dreamer cannot see the face of their anima animus and feels confused. This dream may reflect internal struggles with identity, self-acceptance, or relationship patterns. Perhaps they are grappling with conflicting expectations about gender roles or struggling to reconcile their conscious desires with their unconscious needs. In such cases, dream work can help the dreamer to understand the roots of these conflicts and begin the process of integration. Conversely, anima animus integration can manifest in dreams as a harmonious union or collaboration between the dreamer and their inner other. The dreamer is working together with their anima animus to accomplish tasks, suggesting a greater sense of inner balance and wholeness. This integration can lead to increased creativity, enhanced emotional intelligence, and more fulfilling relationships. The dangers of ignoring the anima animus for men and women are well documented. Robert Johnson, in his books He and She, explores the profound effects of neglecting these inner figures, highlighting the potential for psychological imbalance and emotional distress. What happens when these inner figures are consistently ignored or suppressed? What happens when we fail to acknowledge and integrate these essential aspects of our being? Recognizing and understanding the anima-animus archetype in dreams is a pathway to greater self-knowledge, creativity, and fulfilling relationships. So, what is the best path towards self-knowledge? It's not merely about recognizing traditional gender roles, but about integrating the full spectrum of human qualities within oneself, regardless of gender. It's about integrating traits associated with genders, not about strictly adhering to them. This integration, however, is not an end in itself, but a step toward a greater goal: psychological androgyny. So, what does it mean to be androgynous psychologically? The concept of psychological androgyny represents the ultimate goal of anima-animus integration, leading to greater wholeness and balance. Embracing your inner other can lead to greater authenticity, emotional depth, and a more complete experience of being human. But what happens when you completely ignore dream figures and your unconscious as a whole? What awaits those who choose to remain in the shadows, refusing to acknowledge the wisdom and guidance offered by their inner world? Have you ever felt a persistent unease, a nagging feeling that something is off, but can't quite identify the source? It's a subtle dissonance, a sense that something within you is trying to get your attention, yet you can't quite decipher the message. Like feeling you are forgetting something important even after you have checked every item on your list. Ignoring the recurring themes and emotions in your dreams can lead to a growing disconnect from your intuition and emotional compass. The dreams that show you struggling with something, or the people that keep appearing with messages that don't make sense, are trying to provide guidance, but if you don't understand the language, you will get lost. It's like losing your sense of direction in life, feeling adrift and uncertain about which steps to take to achieve your goals. What if the subtle anxieties emanating from the unconscious start to take form as whacking life emotional and physical problems? Dismissing the messages from the unconscious can manifest in insidious ways, leading to increased stress, anxiety, chronic fatigue, and a general sense of dissatisfaction or meaninglessness. The bad days start to pile up, transforming into bad weeks, then bad months, and eventually an entire year marked by a pervasive sense of unease. This prolonged state of internal conflict can then lead to what is known as somatization, where repressed emotions and unresolved psychological conflicts manifest as physical symptoms. Somatization is the psychological process through which repressed emotions and unresolved conflicts find expression in physical symptoms. For example, stress can manifest as stomach problems, muscle tension, or chronic headaches, with no clear medical explanation. This happens because the constant stress cycle causes hormone imbalances and the disruption of other natural biological processes. The autonomic nervous system, responsible for regulating bodily functions such as heart rate and digestion, becomes dysregulated, leading to a cascade of physiological effects. The immune system weakens, making the body more vulnerable to illness. But the most important thing is that you are less self-aware of your unconscious as time goes on, losing track of your dreams and emotions. You might start to live a life feeling empty, directionless, and ill. This can lead to worse problems, or it can lead to a path towards healing. What will it be? There is concrete evidence linking chronic stress and repressed emotions to physical health problems. Studies have shown the impact of stress on the cardiovascular, endocrine, and immune systems, revealing a clear correlation between chronic stress and an increased risk of heart disease, diabetes, and autoimmune disorders. For instance, studies demonstrate that individuals experiencing prolonged stress have elevated levels of cortisol, a stress hormone, which can contribute to insulin resistance, inflammation, and the development of cardiovascular problems. But all these things can be avoided with a simple connection to the self. Consider the case of a person who suffered from consistent stress and headaches, only to discover through dream analysis that they were being overwhelmed with problems at work. Night after night, they dreamt of being buried under paperwork, unable to breathe, and constantly interrupted by demanding colleagues. By acknowledging this dream and actively addressing the underlying issues in their waking life, delegating tasks, setting boundaries, and communicating their needs more effectively, their headaches gradually subsided, and their overall sense of well-being improved. Jung saw the body as a reflection of the inner psyche. The body will tell the truth of how you are feeling if you are willing to listen. However, if you have experienced trauma, your body might be too afraid to tell you anything. The role of trauma plays a significant role in ignoring the messages of the unconscious. Traumatic experiences can create deep-seated emotional wounds, leading individuals to develop defense mechanisms that suppress or dissociate from painful memories and feelings. As a result, the unconscious becomes a repository for unprocessed trauma, and the messages it attempts to convey through dreams are often ignored or misinterpreted. It's like the alarms are going off, but the whole town is too terrified to even open their doors to see what is happening. However, if we don't open the doors, the problem will still exist. The question is, how long can you ignore it? In essence, ignoring dream messages can lead to a disconnect from intuition, increased stress, physical ailments, and a diminished sense of well-being. It's a slippery slope that goes from bad to worse, with subtle anxieties snowballing into chronic health problems and a pervasive sense of meaninglessness. However, this trajectory is not inevitable. You are not doomed to ignore your own health and emotions. You can turn things around. It is possible to reclaim your inner wisdom and improve your health by learning to listen to your dreams. For the body is not doomed, and we can turn things around. But can dream work really help us solve the problems and illnesses that we have created? So, how can we learn to listen to the whispers of our unconscious before they become shouts, and begin to heal the mind-body split? How do we transition to the next topic of healing the mind and body through dream work? Imagine waking up from a dream so vivid, so real, that the emotions linger long after you open your eyes. The images, the sensations, the almost palpable sense of meaning all fade with each passing moment, leaving you grasping at shadows. Is it simply a random firing of neurons, a meaningless byproduct of sleep? Or could it be a message, a whisper from the depths of your unconscious, yearning to be understood? Many dismiss dream analysis as a frivolous pursuit, a parlor game for the easily amused, but to understand the language of your dreams is to unlock a powerful tool for self-discovery, a key to understanding a better version of yourself. Ignoring the signs and symbols that arise from your dreamscape could be akin to ignoring a crucial warning signal, preventing you from navigating life's complexities with greater awareness and intention. But could dream interpretation truly change you for the better? To engage with the symbols and meanings of your dreams in a logical and structured manner, one must utilize a framework. A four-part system can unlock the dream's potential message: recall, record, relate, and re-enter. Each element serves a distinct yet interconnected function, creating a holistic approach to dream interpretation. How do these four methods help engage the elusive world of dream recall, and how can they be harnessed to unlock the secrets of the unconscious? The first aspect, recall, involves making a conscious effort upon waking to immediately capture all the details of the dream before they vanish from memory like mist in the morning sun. This requires a deliberate shift in focus, turning inward to retrieve the fleeting images and emotions. Setting an intention before sleep, a quiet promise to remember your dreams, can significantly enhance recall. Keep a notebook and pen by your bedside, ready to capture the fragments that surface upon awakening. Practice mindfulness and give yourself a moment to just be, without any external stimulation from phones or music. With practice and intention, dream recall will become easier. But what specific details should be recorded to best utilize the recall method? The second aspect, record, involves documenting all details of the dream in a journal, no matter how fragmented or nonsensical they may seem. This act of writing solidifies the dream in your memory and allows for a more thorough analysis later. Establish a journaling habit by setting aside a few minutes each morning to record your dreams, even if you only remember snippets. Note the emotions you felt, the colors you saw, the people who appeared, and any recurring symbols. Be as detailed as possible, capturing the atmosphere and tone of the dream. A dream journal becomes a repository of your unconscious thoughts and feelings, a treasure trove of insights waiting to be discovered. How might we establish such a journaling habit when waking life demands our immediate attention? The third aspect, relate, involves identifying connections and meanings behind the symbols, using various resources to decipher the hidden language of the dream. This is where dream dictionaries and mythology can serve as invaluable starting points, providing a framework for understanding the archetypal significance of common dream symbols. However, it's essential to remember that dream interpretation is ultimately a personal journey, and the meaning of a symbol can vary depending on the dreamer's individual experiences and associations. Jung writes, "Every interpretation remains in the realm of conjecture unless the patient recognizes it as his truth." It's like trying to translate a foreign language without knowing the cultural context. You might get the literal meaning, but miss the deeper nuances and implications. So, what meanings should we look for when seeking to relate our dreams to waking life? The fourth and final aspect, re-enter, involves using active imagination to explore the dreamscape, engaging with the dream figures and symbols in a conscious and intentional way. This technique, developed by Jung, allows you to step back into the dream and interact with its elements, asking questions, seeking guidance, and exploring the underlying emotions. It's like becoming an actor in your own dream, directing the scene and shaping the narrative. What are some techniques that might help facilitate this re-entry, allowing us to actively engage with the unconscious? Use active imagination to ask dream figures questions, delve deeper into the emotions that arise, and allow the dream to unfold in unexpected ways. It is through this active engagement that the dream can reveal its most profound insights. Dreaming is only half the battle. The waking world and engagement with it is the other. But these steps will help you on your journey. Jung frequently used dream analysis with his patients, helping them unlock the root causes of their psychological distress. Consider the case of Mr. Y, a patient plagued by chronic depression and a profound sense of meaninglessness. Through careful analysis of Mr. Y's dreams, Jung discovered a recurring motif of confinement and restricting Mr. In one dream, Mr. Y found himself trapped in a narrow, dark tunnel, unable to move forward or backward. In another, he was imprisoned in a castle with no doors or windows. These dreams, Jung recognized, were Mr. Alec representations of Mr. Y's psychological state, a feeling of being trapped by his own limiting beliefs and emotional patterns. Jung writes, "The dream is the small hidden door in the deepest and most intimate Mr. sanctum of the soul." By helping Mr. Y to understand the underlying message of these dreams, Jung empowered him to break free from his self-imposed limitations and embark on a path of healing and self-discovery. What seemed like random nightly events turned into a guide that led to a better life for Jung's patient. But how can these steps be applied to other more common dream scenarios? Consider the common dream scenario of being naked in public. This dream can be profoundly unsettling, evoking feelings of shame, vulnerability, and exposure. Applying the four-part method, we can begin to unravel its meaning. First, recall the details of the dream. Where were you? Who was present? How did you feel? Record these details in your dream journal, noting any specific elements that stand out. Next, relate the symbols to your waking life. Being naked in public often symbolizes a fear of vulnerability, a concern about being judged or exposed. It may reflect a feeling of inadequacy or a fear of not being good enough. Finally, re-enter the dream through active imagination. Imagine yourself standing naked in public and ask yourself, what am I afraid of? What am I trying to hide? What aspects of myself am I ashamed of? What needs to be expressed? The answers to these questions can provide valuable insights into your own vulnerabilities and insecurities, allowing you to address them with greater awareness and compassion. Dreams of being naked in public usually symbolize a fear of being exposed. But what about less common, more strange dreams? Consider a less common, but still recurring dream scenario. A dreamer finds themselves at a party where something is terribly wrong, but they are unable to leave. There's an underlying sense of dread, an unsettling feeling that something sinister is lurking just beneath the surface. Applying the recall, record, relate, and re-enter framework, we can begin to explore the potential meanings of this dream. The party itself may symbolize a social situation or a particular aspect of your life where you feel trapped or uncomfortable. The sense that something is wrong could represent a hidden conflict or unresolved issue that you are avoiding in waking life. The inability to leave suggests a feeling of powerlessness or a fear of confronting the underlying problem. Jung believed that dreams compensate for elements lacking in waking life. By acknowledging these feelings and exploring the underlying issues, the dreamer can begin to reclaim their power and find a way to break free from the cycle of avoidance. Now, let's analyze a more complex, yet realistic dream. A dreamer is constantly walking down a road that gets increasingly dangerous, but they have the persistent feeling of being on the right path. This dream is rich with symbolism and offers a compelling opportunity for self-discovery. Applying the four-part method, we begin by encouraging the dreamer to vividly recall the specific details. What does the road look like? What makes it dangerous? What are the surrounding landscapes? What emotions accompany the feeling of being on the right path? Record these details meticulously. Then, we encourage them to relate the dream elements to their waking life. The road might symbolize the dreamer's life path or a specific project. The increasing danger could represent challenges or obstacles they are facing. The feeling of being on the right path, despite the danger, suggests an intuitive knowing or a deep-seated sense of purpose. Jung writes that the dream is a theater where the dreamer is himself the scene, the player, the prompter, the author, the public, and the critic. Finally, through re-entry and active imagination, the dreamer can engage with the dream figures and symbols, asking for guidance and exploring the underlying emotions. Asking questions can help solidify the next step in the waking life. Is there something that needs to be faced? Is there something that needs to be avoided? In the end, they are still the only ones who truly know. The four aspects of dream interpretation, recall, record, relate, and re-enter, each contribute to the process of self-discovery. By diligently recalling and recording our dreams, we create a repository of unconscious material. By relating dream symbols to our waking lives, we uncover hidden connections and meanings. And by re-entering the dream through active imagination, we engage with the unconscious in a direct and transformative way. Through dream exploration, we can begin our own form of self-administered therapy. This process, of course, requires continuous effort and dedication. While profound insights and transformative shifts can occur, dream work requires the development of sensitivity and trust in the wisdom of the unconscious. While results are not immediate, the journey is worth the effort. Each person's dream journey is unique, and each path is personal. But what happens when one is unable to correctly interpret the signs, and they lead them down a negative path, or to emotional or physical disease? Now that you have all the tools, how will you use them to actively explore your dreams and improve your waking life? As you set out to explore your dream world, which road will you follow, a path of healing, or one of disease, where unresolved issues fester and take root? Like any journey of self-discovery, dream work can lead to profound growth and healing, yet if approached incorrectly or at the wrong time, it can exacerbate existing issues, potentially leading to a more fragile psychological state. A shortcut, if taken at the wrong time, can sometimes lead to an undesirable outcome. What factors determine whether dream analysis will be a beneficial or detrimental experience, and what hidden roadblocks might you encounter along the way? There are indeed factors that may make someone entirely unready for the intense work involved in dream analysis. Readiness is of paramount importance. Emotional stability and a degree of self-awareness are prerequisites before embarking on such a journey. For example, a person currently suffering from acute psychosis may want to seek professional help to stabilize before engaging in any form of dream analysis, as the symbolic nature of dreams can be easily misinterpreted, potentially leading to delusional beliefs and further fragmentation of reality. Guidance, or rather, the lack thereof, can also prove to be a dangerous obstacle. Dealing with traumatic dreams or confronting one's shadow can be intensely destabilizing, and the guidance of a skilled therapist, particularly one specializing in Jungian analysis, becomes essential. Consider someone with intense childhood trauma who has repressed those memories for years. Attempting to excavate those buried emotions without professional support could trigger a re-traumatization, leading to severe anxiety, panic attacks, or even a complete psychological breakdown. Discernment, too, plays a vital role in safe dream exploration. Not all dreams should be taken literally or acted upon, and mistaking symbolic imagery for concrete reality can lead to misguided actions and delusional interpretations. One might be tempted to quit their job because of a nightmare involving their boss, interpreting it as a sign of impending doom. But without a rational assessment of their financial situation, this impulsive decision could lead to unemployment and further stress. The integration of these components is crucial, because without it, dream analysis can lead to an intellectual understanding of the self without any emotional connection. One might intellectually understand the symbolism of their dreams, recognizing the presence of archetypes and shadow figures. But without emotionally connecting with those symbols, the insights remain superficial and fail to translate into meaningful change. The positive sides to dream analysis are very potent and helpful, offering a pathway towards self-understanding, emotional healing, and personal growth. Dreams, when approached with the right mindset and guidance, can provide invaluable insights into the unconscious mind, illuminating hidden patterns, unresolved conflicts, and untapped potentials. This journey is not without its perils, but can lead to a truer sense of self. But what happens when these risks are realized? Consider the case of a young man named Carl, who, captivated by the promise of self-discovery through dream analysis, began exploring his dream world with fervor. Initially, Carl experienced a surge of excitement as he uncovered symbolic patterns and archetypal figures within his dreams. However, Carl, unbeknownst to himself, had a predisposition towards psychosis, a latent vulnerability that remained dormant until the intense emotional exploration triggered by his dream work. As he delved deeper into his unconscious, Carl began experiencing vivid hallucinations and delusional beliefs. The boundaries between his waking reality and his dream world blurred, leading to a complete break from reality, necessitating hospitalization and intensive psychiatric care. Jung himself encountered similar challenges in his early practice, noting the potential for dream analysis to destabilize vulnerable individuals. While Jung's case files are not publicly available, stories passed down through Jungian circles tell of a young woman with latent schizophrenia whose dream work inadvertently triggered a psychotic episode, highlighting the importance of careful screening and skilled guidance. Contrast this with the experience of a woman named Sarah, who, burdened by years of repressed trauma and anxiety, sought the help of a therapist specializing in Jungian dream analysis. Recognizing Sarah's fragile emotional state, the therapist approached her dream work with patience and caution. They began by establishing a safe and supportive therapeutic relationship, creating a space where Sarah felt comfortable exploring her dreams without fear of judgment or re-traumatization. Slowly, they analyzed Sarah's dream world, gently guiding her through the process of uncovering hidden patterns and unresolved conflicts. The therapist utilized techniques such as active imagination and sand play therapy to help Sarah engage with her dream symbols in a safe and controlled manner. As Sarah progressed, she began to integrate the insights gained from her dreams into her waking life, leading to a gradual reduction in her anxiety and a newfound sense of self-acceptance. This outcome shows the great value in dream analysis. But what happens when a person ignores an important message being sent from the unconscious? Imagine a scenario in which a person has a recurring dream about a friend expressing anger and resentment towards them, but they shrug it off as mere noise, dismissing the dream as meaningless. Months later, the friendship abruptly ends, leaving the person bewildered and heartbroken. Applying the recall, record, relate, and re-enter framework, the person might have handled the situation with better results. If they had taken the dream seriously, recording its details and exploring its potential meanings, they might have recognized the subtle signs of conflict that were brewing beneath the surface of the friendship. By engaging in active imagination, they could have explored the friend's perspective, gaining insights into their unspoken grievances and addressing the issues before they reached a breaking point. A contrasting, positive outcome can occur when the dream is correctly interpreted. Consider someone who has a dream that they are fired from their job, but instead of succumbing to anger or despair, they interpret the dream as a sign to pursue a more fulfilling career path. Inspired by the dream, they begin exploring their passions and interests, eventually launching a successful business that aligns with their true values. This scenario exemplifies how dreams can serve as catalysts for self-actualization, prompting individuals to take risks, embrace change, and ultimately live more authentic lives. In this way, dreams can offer a glimpse into our potential, showing us the path towards becoming the best versions of ourselves. In essence, the dream journey is not guaranteed to be a path paved with roses. It is a labyrinthine path fraught with potential risks and unexpected turns, but what is important is that you choose to venture on it or not. Dreaming and understanding are only half the battle. Integrating the symbols and lessons into waking life is just as important. Learning to differentiate between dreams that offer valuable insights and those that are simply noise requires skill, intuition, and a healthy dose of self-awareness. Dreams are going to be weird, nonsensical, and at times downright disturbing, but learning which ones to pay attention to and which ones to disregard is the real challenge. What steps can we take to minimize the risks and maximize the rewards of this transformative practice? What hidden techniques can we use to safely navigate the dream labyrinth and unlock its secrets? We'll delve into a more complex understanding of how to discern between important messages and the unimportant details that are merely manifestations of other things, but we're just scratching the surface. What happens when you ignore the desperate cries from your unconscious can have dramatic real-world effects that can range from minor annoyances to potentially life-altering problems. If we dream for roughly 2 hours every night, experiencing multiple narratives, are all of these experiences of equal importance, or are some just random mental firings? We can easily recall up to 5 dreams a night, but are they all meant to be analyzed, or can most simply be ignored as irrelevant mental detritus? Differentiating between the whispers and the shouts within our dream world becomes crucial. Learning to discern significant dreams containing valuable insights from those that are simply noise, reflections of daily life, random associations, or unprocessed sensory input is the key to unlocking the unconscious. But why should we even bother differentiating the different levels of importance? After all, they're just dreams, right? In the vast landscape of our nightly visions, it's essential to develop a dream filter, a set of characteristics that help us identify the dreams that warrant closer attention, the ones that hold the keys to deeper understanding. Think of it as panning for gold. You sift through a lot of sand and gravel to find those precious nuggets. In this context, the sand and gravel are the mundane dreams, while the gold represents the significant ones that contain valuable insights. We will discuss characteristics such as emotional intensity, recurrence, symbolism, and lucidity to filter through the noise and isolate the useful information. Let's consider these defining characteristics, and in doing so, learn how to construct our own dream filter. First, consider emotional intensity. Dreams that evoke high levels of emotion, fear, joy, sadness, or even intense confusion often suggest the dream is tapping into significant unconscious material. These intense emotional dreams are far more likely to be important than a dream about, say, waiting in line at the grocery store. The stronger the emotion, the more likely it is that the dream is trying to tell you something important, and that you should pay attention to it. A dream filled with terror is the unconscious screaming for your attention, whereas a dream where you are mildly inconvenienced is merely a whimper. Emotional intensity acts as a signal flare, illuminating the dark corners of your psyche and demanding recognition of underlying issues. Next, consider recurrence. Dreams that repeat over time, even with variations, often point to unresolved issues or recurring patterns in waking life. Recurring dreams are the mind's way of bringing attention to persistent problems, acting as a broken record stuck on the same groove. The unconscious keeps presenting the same theme, the same scenario, until we finally acknowledge and address the underlying issue. If you consistently dream of being chased, failing an exam, or losing your teeth, it's a clear indication that something in your waking life needs your attention. These recurring patterns are not random occurrences. They are insistent reminders of unfinished business, opportunities for growth that we have repeatedly overlooked. Also consider vivid and unusual symbolism. Dreams with striking, bizarre, or highly symbolic imagery are more likely to be communicating important unconscious content. Symbols stick in the mind, lingering long after we wake, precisely because they carry a deeper significance than everyday events. A dream featuring a talking animal, a journey through a labyrinth, or an encounter with a mythical creature is likely laden with symbolic meaning. These symbols aren't arbitrary. They are the language of the unconscious, expressing complex emotions, ideas, and experiences in a condensed and evocative form. Recognizing and interpreting these symbols is key to unlocking the hidden messages within our dreams. Lucidity, too, deserves our attention. Dreams where you become aware that you are dreaming, lucid dreams, offer direct access to the unconscious and the ability to explore and interact with dream content consciously. Lucidity allows direct engagement with dream figures, transforming passive observation into active participation. Imagine being able to confront your shadow figure, ask it questions, and understand its motivations, all within the safe confines of your dream. Lucid dreams provide a unique opportunity to consciously explore the inner landscape of your psyche, to confront fears, resolve conflicts, and even heal emotional wounds. Finally, consider any direct connection to waking life challenges. Dreams that directly address current struggles or decisions tend to be more significant than those that seem entirely disconnected. These dreams often provide insights, guidance, or even potential solutions to problems we are facing in our waking lives. For instance, a dream in which you successfully navigate a difficult situation at work might suggest hidden strengths and resources you can tap into in your waking life. Dreams can show solutions to waking life problems by offering a different perspective, a symbolic representation of the challenges we face, and providing a safe space to experiment with different approaches. It's important to reinforce that the purpose of the dream filter is to help focus your attention on the most meaningful dreams, not to create a rigid set of rules for dismissing certain experiences. It is merely a tool, an aid to help you navigate the complex world of dreams. Now, let's examine some real-world examples to see how the dream filter can be applied in practice. Consider the case of a middle-aged woman named Martha, who for months was plagued by a recurring dream of her teeth falling out. Initially, she dismissed the dream as a random occurrence, a bizarre quirk of her subconscious. However, the dream persisted, returning night after night, each time leaving her with a sense of anxiety and unease. Applying the dream filter, Martha recognized the recurrence and the emotional intensity of the dream as significant indicators. She began to explore the symbolism of teeth, learning that they often represent power, communication, and self-confidence. Eventually, Martha realized that the dream was connected to a persistent problem at home, her difficulty in expressing her needs and desires to her husband. Once she addressed this communication barrier, the teeth falling out dream finally stopped. Now, let's analyze a low-significance dream scenario. Imagine someone dreams about doing laundry, sorting clothes, loading the washing machine, folding clean items. This dream likely reflects mundane daily activities, devoid of intense emotion, unusual symbolism, or direct connection to any significant waking life challenges. It's the mental equivalent of channel surfing, the brain idly processing routine tasks without deeper meaning. Most people do not need to focus on day-to-day dreams that are boring and not thought-provoking, as they offer little insight into the unconscious. This is the static that can be easily ignored. On the other hand, let's analyze a high-significance dream scenario. A person struggling with anxiety has a dream in which a wise old woman appears and tells them, "It's time to let go." How can this person apply each aspect of the dream filter to this specific situation? The emotional intensity is high, as anxiety is a powerful emotion. The symbolism is vivid, with the appearance of a wise old woman, a classic archetypal figure representing wisdom and guidance. And the message itself, "It's time to let go," directly addresses the person's waking life struggle with anxiety. This dream clearly warrants closer attention, an invitation to explore the underlying causes of the anxiety and to consider what needs to be released. Finally, consider a complex dream scenario. A person who is constantly arguing with others and harbors an intense feeling of anger has a dream that they are eating a delicious cake. Is this dream about pleasure or rage? Applying the aspects of the dream filter, we can see that the intense feeling of anger in waking life could be influencing the dream. The cake, a symbol of pleasure and indulgence, might be a way for the unconscious to compensate for the anger, or it could be a false front, a sweet facade masking deeper, more troubling emotions. The dream could also be symbolic of having your cake and eating it too, indicating the dreamer is attempting to manipulate situations in their waking life. This dream requires careful consideration, exploring both the conscious and unconscious aspects of the person's emotional state. In essence, the dream filter characteristics serve as a guide for discerning significant dreams from noise, helping us to focus our attention on the messages that truly matter. To recap, the 5 qualities to focus on are emotional intensity, recurrence, vivid symbolism, lucidity, and a direct connection to waking life challenges. By understanding the importance of each quality, we can more effectively navigate the complex landscape of our dream world. While all dreams are important, potentially offering subtle clues or insights if approached with curiosity and openness, it is important to focus on what the unconscious is screaming at you, the persistent messages that demand your attention. But what happens when you recognize a significant dream, but choose to ignore it, to turn a deaf ear to the urgent message from your unconscious? What are the potential consequences of dismissing these vital communications? We'll delve into a more in-depth analysis of what may happen when someone ignores important messages and only focuses on smaller dreams, scratching the surface and never digging deeper into the dark gold that awaits. What happens when you repeatedly ignore those vivid, emotionally charged dreams, the ones that feel like urgent messages from your deepest self? Do they simply fade away, or do the feelings associated with them intensify, perhaps even manifesting in unexpected and detrimental ways? Consistently ignoring significant dream messages can lead to a growing disconnect from your intuition, inner guidance, and authentic self, setting the stage for a profound psychological imbalance. It's like ignoring the warning lights on your car's dashboard. The problem doesn't disappear just because you choose not to see it, and the long-term consequences can be far more severe than a simple fix. Is the same true for the psyche? This disconnect can manifest in a myriad of ways, gradually eroding your psychological well-being. Increased anxiety and persistent feelings of unease may become your constant companions, subtly coloring your perception of the world. Depression, a heavy blanket of sadness and hopelessness, might descend, stifling your joy and enthusiasm for life. You may find yourself feeling lost, adrift without a clear sense of purpose or direction, struggling to make even the simplest decisions. Imagine, for example, consistently dreaming of being lost in a forest, but dismissing it as mere background noise. Eventually, this could translate into a real-life inability to navigate your career path, leading to stagnation and unfulfilled potential. Ignoring shadow figures in dreams could empower negative behavioral patterns in waking life, leading to outbursts of rage at inappropriate times. Not attending to animus figures, moreover, may lead to consistently poor romantic choices. The unconscious is relentless, and if its messages are not heeded, they will find other ways to surface. This consistent disregard for the unconscious can lead to what we might call psychological rigidity, a state where the ego becomes overly identified with conscious attitudes and beliefs. In essence, it is a self-imposed prison where the individual refuses to consider alternative perspectives, clinging to outdated or dysfunctional patterns of thinking and behaving. Rigid people refuse to change their minds, even when presented with clear evidence that they are wrong. They become inflexible, closed off to new experiences, and resistant to change. Dreams, in their symbolic language, are often trying to gently nudge us toward greater flexibility, urging us to be open to new possibilities and perspectives. When we consistently ignore these messages, we become increasingly entrenched in our rigid ways, hindering our ability to adapt to life's inevitable challenges. This repression can cause repressed content from ignored dreams to leak into waking life in distorted or destructive ways. Sudden outbursts of anger, irrational fears that seem to come from nowhere, or compulsive behaviors that defy logical explanation can all be symptomatic of the unconscious trying to break through the barriers of the rigid ego. These shadow traits start to manifest in negative ways that the person is not even aware of, creating havoc in their relationships, careers, and overall well-being. It's like a pressure cooker. The longer the steam is contained, the more likely it is to explode. Consider the case of a man named John, who had recurring dreams about being trapped in a small, windowless room. Initially, he dismissed these dreams as insignificant, attributing them to stress at work. However, the dreams persisted, growing increasingly vivid and disturbing. He continued to ignore them, burying himself deeper into his demanding career, working long hours and neglecting his personal life. Eventually, John found himself feeling utterly stifled and suffocated, both in his career and in his marriage. He realized, too late, that the dreams were a warning, a desperate plea from his unconscious to break free from the self-imposed limitations he had created. He wanted to leave his job and his marriage, but was held back by an outside force, fear, precisely what his unconscious had been warning him about. Consider, too, the hypothetical scenario of a person who has consistent dreams of their house falling apart, with cracked foundations and crumbling walls. They dismiss it all as just a dream. Eventually, this person is evicted from their home and becomes homeless, a literal manifestation of the dream's symbolic warning. Or, imagine someone constantly dreaming of failing, experiencing intense panic attacks in their sleep, but continues to deny the possibility of failure in their waking life. This denial, this refusal to acknowledge the underlying anxiety, eventually leads to the very failure that the dreams were desperately trying to avert. This person does not see the failure coming and is therefore unprepared. Jung, in his extensive writings on the importance of dreams, frequently cautioned against neglecting the wisdom of the unconscious. He writes of patients who suffered severe psychological breakdowns as a direct result of ignoring their dreams, of individuals who refused to look inward and ultimately lost their sanity. The dream, Jung writes, is the small hidden door in the deepest and most intimate sanctum of the soul, which opens to that primeval cosmic night that was so long before there was a conscious ego and will be so far beyond what a conscious ego could ever reach. One might consider, too, the rise of authoritarianism in various parts of the world as a manifestation of a collective shadow that has been ignored for far too long. The shadow of a nation, its repressed history, its unacknowledged injustices, can fester and erupt in destructive ways if not brought to conscious awareness and addressed with honesty and courage. Is there, perhaps, a point of no return, a threshold beyond which too much has been ignored, too much wisdom discarded, making psychological integration impossible? While the human psyche possesses a remarkable capacity for healing and transformation, the consequences of prolonged neglect can be profound. Like a garden overgrown with weeds, the unconscious can become so choked with repressed material that it becomes increasingly difficult to cultivate and restore balance. Consider, however, that there are many instances of the unconscious being ignored for long periods where integration was still possible, though it was by no means easy. In essence, consistently ignoring significant dream messages can lead to a growing disconnect from your intuition, increased psychological rigidity, the potential for destructive behavior patterns, and a diminished sense of well-being. It is a slow erosion of the self, a gradual descent into psychological imbalance. These negative consequences are not inevitable, and you can reclaim your inner wisdom and improve your psychological health by learning to listen to your dreams. This will by no means be an easy or quick fix, but it is possible. Can dream work act as a constant guide, like a therapist residing within your own mind? Now that we know all the dangers of ignoring these urgent dream messages, how do we create boundaries within the dream world? And when do we invite help from others, perhaps in the form of a therapist? How do we create a safe space in our minds, a sanctuary where we can explore the depths of our unconscious without fear of being overwhelmed? What if your dreamscape became a battleground, and the only way to survive was to build up walls? As we delve deeper into the realm of dreams, it becomes clear that these nightly voyages into our unconscious can be both profoundly healing and at times overwhelming. When the shadow becomes too overwhelming, when nightmares become relentless, or when the intensity of the unconscious threatens to spill over into our waking lives, what then? Establishing clear boundaries in dream work is not about censoring or suppressing dream content. It's about creating a safe and manageable space for exploring the vast and often turbulent landscape of the unconscious. It is not running from the problems, but facing them in a controlled manner, like a skilled therapist guiding a patient through a difficult memory. Ignoring the need for boundaries can be akin to diving into the deep ocean without a diving suit or entering a dark forest without a map. The potential for disorientation, fear, and even psychological injury becomes significantly amplified. But if our dreams are trying to help us, to guide us towards healing and wholeness, why do we need boundaries at all? Why can't we just let the unconscious flow freely and trust that it will lead us to where we need to go? The truth is, the unconscious, while a source of immense wisdom and creativity, can also be a repository of trauma, repressed emotions, and destructive patterns. Without proper boundaries, we risk being flooded by these forces, potentially re-traumatizing ourselves or becoming overwhelmed by negative emotions. For example, someone with a history of abuse might find themselves reliving those experiences in their dreams, triggering intense panic attacks and flashbacks. Or an individual struggling with addiction might encounter vivid and tempting scenarios in their dreams, making it even more challenging to maintain sobriety. In these cases, boundaries act as a protective shield, allowing us to engage with the unconscious in a way that is both safe and productive. How then do we build these walls? What techniques can we employ to create a mental fortress that allows us to explore our dreams without being overwhelmed by their intensity? Imagine the mental fortress as a collection of tools and techniques designed to manage your dream experience. It's not about building impenetrable walls that block out the unconscious entirely, but rather about creating strategic defenses that allow you to navigate the dreamscape with greater control and awareness. Just as a skilled architect carefully designs a building to withstand the elements, we can consciously construct our mental fortress to protect ourselves from the potentially overwhelming forces of the unconscious. These tools may include safe words, dream allies, intention setting, and limited timeframes. Each of these techniques serves a specific purpose, and when used in combination, they can provide a powerful sense of security and empowerment within the dream world. Let's begin with safe words. This technique involves choosing a specific word or phrase that, when spoken within a dream, signals a need to withdraw or change the scene. It's like having an emergency exit in a building, a quick and easy way to escape if things become too intense. What words can we use? How can we set them up? The key is to choose a word that is not commonly used in everyday conversation and to mentally associate it with a feeling of safety and control. Before falling asleep, repeat the safe word to yourself several times, visualizing a sense of calm and security. Then, if you find yourself in a dream that is becoming too frightening or overwhelming, consciously speak the safe word. This act can often trigger a shift in the dream, either by changing the scene, waking you up, or bringing in a dream ally. Next, we have dream allies. This technique involves visualizing a helpful figure or presence that can offer guidance, protection, or support during challenging dream encounters. How can we create dream allies? What do they represent? Dream allies can take many forms, from wise mentors and compassionate healers to powerful warriors and protective animals. The key is to choose an ally that resonates with you personally, someone who embodies the qualities you need most in that moment. For example, if you are facing a difficult confrontation in a dream, you might call upon a warrior figure to stand by your side. Or, if you are feeling lost and confused, you might seek guidance from a wise old sage. Like the safe word, you should meditate on this figure and its properties before sleep. Then there's intention setting. Before sleep, set a clear intention about the kind of dream experience you want to have, focusing on exploration and understanding rather than confrontation. What sort of intentions should we be setting? What are some examples? Instead of going to sleep with a vague hope of having a good dream, take a few minutes to consciously direct your unconscious mind. You might set an intention to explore a specific issue, to connect with a particular person, or to simply observe your dreams with curiosity and compassion. For instance, you might say to yourself, "Tonight, I intend to explore my feelings about my relationship with my father," or "Tonight, I intend to observe my dreams without judgment, allowing them to unfold naturally." This can allow a safe exploration of the subconscious. Finally, consider limited timeframes. Set a timer for yourself during dream re-entry to avoid getting lost in the unconscious. It's like setting a boundary for how long you will stay in a potentially overwhelming situation. Start small and work your way up to a larger time frame. Don't rush it. When using this technique, set an alarm for a short period, perhaps 15 or 20 minutes. When the alarm sounds, gently bring yourself back to waking consciousness, taking a few moments to record your dream experiences. Over time, you can gradually increase the length of these dream explorations as you become more comfortable and confident in your ability to manage your dream boundaries. It's crucial to emphasize that these boundaries are a tool for empowerment, not limitation. They are not meant to stifle the creative potential of the unconscious or to prevent us from facing challenging emotions. Rather, they are designed to provide a sense of safety and control, allowing us to engage with our dreams in a way that is both healing and transformative, so that dream work can continue safely and productively. Boundaries give us the ability to explore, to learn, and to grow without being overwhelmed by the intensity of the unconscious. But what happens when those boundaries are breached? What are the consequences of ignoring the need for a mental fortress? And what breakthroughs become possible when we learn to use these tools effectively? Consider the case of Sarah, a young woman with a history of past trauma who, eager to delve into her unconscious, ignored the need for boundaries. She dove headfirst into dream work, hoping to quickly resolve her inner conflicts, but without establishing any safety measures. The result was a series of increasingly disturbing nightmares that triggered extreme panic attacks in her waking life. Trauma can make boundaries difficult to understand and even harder to establish, and Sarah's experience serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of proceeding with care and awareness. Her eagerness to heal ultimately backfired, leaving her feeling more overwhelmed and traumatized than before she started. She had to seek professional help to deal with the panic attacks, thus rendering her solo dream exploration as a negative experience. Imagine an inexperienced dream explorer deciding to explore their shadow without setting up a safe word. The shadow, a repository of repressed emotions and unacceptable impulses, can be a formidable force to confront. Without the ability to defend themselves, shadow integration can be a terrible experience. The explorer finds themselves face to face with terrifying aspects of themselves, aspects they had long denied or suppressed. The shadow overwhelms them, flooding them with feelings of guilt, shame, and rage. They wake up feeling shaken and traumatized, unable to shake off the negative energy of the dream. This is another example of why dream allies, intense setting, and limited timeframes can be crucial. In contrast, consider the story of Mark, who constantly dreamed of being chased by a shadowy figure. Initially, he felt helpless and afraid, but he decided to create a dream ally, a powerful, protective wolf. Each time he found himself being chased in his dreams, he would call upon the wolf, who would fearlessly confront the shadowy figure, giving Mark a chance to escape. Eventually, Mark found that he no longer needed the wolf. He had become confident enough to face his own problems, integrating the strengths of his dream ally into his own personality. Eventually, the dreamer no longer needed the ally and became confident enough to take on their own problems, demonstrating the potential for growth and empowerment that dream work can offer. What happens in a low-boundary dream scenario? Imagine a person having a recurring dream about being attacked, but passively accepting the violence without attempting to defend themselves or change the situation. Over time, this dream becomes more frequent and intense, gradually taking over their entire dreamscape. Explain that the lack of safe word, intention, or dream ally made the dream intense, and what was once a manageable fear now consumes their inner world. The person wakes up each morning feeling drained, anxious, and increasingly vulnerable, as if the boundaries between their dream life and waking life have become blurred. The lack of boundaries in their dream world has begun to erode their sense of safety and control in their waking world. Conversely, consider a high-boundary dream scenario. A person knows that they must face their shadow, but they approach the task with caution and awareness. They create a safe word, set a limited time frame for their exploration, and visualize a supportive dream ally. What steps do they take to confront the shadow in a way that is not harmful? They might begin by simply observing the shadow from a distance, trying to understand its motivations and fears. They might then engage in a dialogue with the shadow, asking it questions and listening to its responses. They might even offer the shadow compassion and acceptance, recognizing that it is a part of themselves that has been wounded and neglected. In this way, they can safely explore the depths of their unconscious, integrating the shadow without being overwhelmed by its power. These dream-bound RESF words, dream allies, intention setting, and limited time frame serve as a guide for ensuring safety in dream exploration. They are an extra tool, not a replacement for a therapist, and should be used responsibly and with awareness. When employed consciously, these techniques can provide a powerful sense of control and allow for a much greater chance of dream integration. However, these boundaries may not always be enough. It is important to know when to seek professional help and to not continue dream exploration alone. If it becomes too intense, it is okay to call in an expert to assist. The need for outside assistance does not mean failure. Instead, it allows for an enhanced approach to dream exploration. In the next section, we will provide more information about when it is appropriate to seek outside assistance and to not continue dream exploration alone. We will even hint at techniques used by therapists to assist in dream integration, what they don't want you to know, and how they can help. How can you tell when the dream requires more than a safe word or a dream ally? Encouraging safe exploration of dreams is essential to knowing when help is needed. The answer to this question will be explored in the next section. What if the dream world reflected a room full of funhouse mirrors? You are seeing yourself, but it is a distorted version, and you need someone to explain what you are really looking at. Even when equipped with safe words, dream allies, and a well-structured mental fortress, the landscape of the unconscious can sometimes present challenges that demand more than self-guidance. It's important to recognize that dream work isn't always a solo journey, and sometimes outside help is required. The path of self-discovery, while often empowering, can lead us into intricate and emotionally charged territories where the objective perspective of a trained therapist becomes invaluable. It's okay to call in an expert because dream work and exploration isn't always easy. But at what point does dream analysis need professional oversight? Determining when to seek professional help with dream analysis is not a sign of weakness or failure, but rather a testament to your commitment to mental well-being and a recognition of the complexities inherent in the human psyche. There are several key scenarios where the guidance of a therapist can prove particularly beneficial, ensuring that the journey into the unconscious is both safe and productive. These scenarios often involve navigating intense emotional terrain, managing cookering mental health issues, and integrating dream content into waking life. While self-exploration is often fruitful, it is good to remember that there can also be pitfalls along the way. One of the most critical indicators for seeking professional help is the presence of intense trauma. Traumatic dreams, often characterized by vivid flashbacks, overwhelming emotions, and disturbing imagery, can be incredibly destabilizing and can lead to further psychological harm if not handled carefully, requiring a trained professional. Diving into such dreams without proper support can risk re-traumatization, potentially exacerbating the very wounds you're trying to heal. A therapist will be able to safely guide you through these problems and prevent re-traumatization. The therapist has tools such as grounding exercises, cognitive restructuring, and emotional processing techniques that can help you to navigate traumatic dream content in a controlled and therapeutic manner. They can help you to gradually process the emotions and memories associated with the trauma, fostering a sense of safety and empowerment. Furthermore, individuals with cookering mental health issues may find that dream work can exacerbate their symptoms, making professional guidance essential. Pre-existing conditions such as anxiety, depression, or psychosis may benefit from working with a therapist to ensure that dream work doesn't exacerbate symptoms. Dreams are intense, so managing the cookering condition may be difficult without help. For example, someone struggling with severe anxiety might find that exploring their dreams triggers panic attacks or heightened levels of worry. Similarly, individuals with depression might experience dreams that amplify their feelings of hopelessness and despair. In such cases, a therapist can help you to develop coping strategies, manage your symptoms, and ensure that dream work is integrated into a comprehensive treatment plan. They can provide a safe and supportive space to process the emotions and experiences that arise during dream analysis, helping you to avoid becoming overwhelmed or destabilized. Persistent nightmares, those recurring terrors that disrupt sleep and cast a shadow over waking hours, represent another compelling reason to seek professional intervention. Recurring nightmares that disrupt sleep and cause distress may require professional intervention to address underlying causes and develop coping strategies. The nightmares are recurring for a reason, and understanding the root of those problems is the job of a therapist. While occasional bad dreams are a normal part of the human experience, persistent nightmares can indicate underlying psychological distress, unresolved trauma, or other mental health issues. A therapist can help you to identify the triggers for your nightmares, explore the emotions and experiences associated with them, and develop strategies for reducing their frequency and intensity. These strategies may include imagery rehearsal therapy, relaxation techniques, and cognitive restructuring. Difficulty integrating dream content into waking life is another sign that you may benefit from professional guidance. If you're struggling to make sense of your dreams or apply their insights to waking life, a therapist can help you to interpret and integrate the messages of the unconscious. It's easy to understand the problems, but much harder to change behaviors. Dreams, while often rich in symbolism and insight, can sometimes be challenging to decipher and translate into actionable change. A therapist can help you to understand the underlying themes and patterns in your dreams, connect them to your waking life experiences, and develop strategies for applying the insights you gain to improve your relationships, career, and overall well-being. The exploration of one's shadow self, while crucial for psychological wholeness, can also be a challenging and potentially overwhelming process. Shadow work that feels too intense might require a mental health expert to help to walk you through any discoveries that are made. Help to understand the shadow and create a plan for shadow integration. The shadow, as Jung described, contains all the aspects of ourselves that we have repressed, denied, or rejected. Confronting these hidden aspects of our personality can trigger intense emotions, challenge our self-image, and even lead to feelings of shame or guilt. A therapist can provide a safe and supportive space to explore your shadow, helping you to understand its origins, integrate its positive qualities, and manage its more destructive tendencies. Seeking professional help when navigating the complexities of dream analysis is not a sign of failure, but a sign of taking your mental health seriously. It demonstrates a willingness to prioritize your well-being and to seek out the support you need to navigate the challenging terrain of the unconscious. Remember, even the most experienced explorers need a guide when venturing into uncharted territory. Approaching dream analysis with an expert can allow for deeper understanding. Consider the case of Sarah, a young woman with PTSD who turned to dream analysis as part of her therapeutic journey. Initially, Sarah's dreams were filled with vivid replays of the traumatic event, leaving her feeling anxious and overwhelmed. Explain the specific techniques that the therapist used in their sessions. With the guidance of her therapist, Sarah began to use techniques such as imagery rehearsal therapy to rewrite the narrative of her dreams, gradually replacing the traumatic imagery with more positive and empowering scenes. She also learned to use grounding exercises to manage the anxiety and emotional distress triggered by her nightmares. Over time, Sarah's dreams became less frightening, and she began to experience a sense of mastery over her trauma. The therapist provided a safe and supportive space for Sarah to process her emotions and memories, helping her to integrate the traumatic experience into her life narrative. Another example involves a patient named Michael who had a recurring dream about a traumatic experience, who, instead of running, contacted their therapist. This allowed them to deal with the problem head-on in a safe environment, which led to healing. The dream involved a car accident in which Michael had been seriously injured. Instead of avoiding the dream, Michael, with the support of his therapist, decided to confront the imagery head-on. In therapy, Michael used techniques such as active imagination to engage with the dream figures and explore the underlying emotions. He discovered that the dream was not just a replay of the accident, but also a symbolic representation of his feelings of vulnerability and loss of control. By processing these emotions in a safe and supportive environment, Michael was able to heal from the trauma and regain a sense of empowerment. Consider also the case of David, an individual who was constantly dreaming of violence, which led them to act out during the day. After a few sessions with a therapist, they are able to come to terms with their anger and channel it in a productive way. The dreams were filled with scenes of aggression and physical conflict, leaving him feeling agitated and prone to outbursts of anger in his waking life. With the help of his therapist, David began to explore the underlying causes of his anger, tracing it back to childhood experiences of abuse and neglect. He learned to use techniques such as mindfulness and emotional regulation to manage his anger and channel it in more productive ways. The therapist helped David to understand the symbolic meaning of his violent dreams, recognizing them as an expression of his repressed emotions. Over time, David was able to come to terms with his anger and develop healthier coping mechanisms. It's important to remember that even Jung himself had mentors and guides who helped him with his understanding and personal journey. From Sigmund Freud to Tony Wolff, Jung understood the value of discussing ideas and thoughts with others so that they could provide additional insight. Seeking guidance from a qualified therapist is not a sign of weakness, but a testament to your commitment to personal growth and well-being. In summary, seeking professional help with dream analysis is a sign of strength and commitment to your mental health. Even the most experienced dreamers need a helping hand from time to time. It is a recognition that the journey into the unconscious can be complex and challenging, and that the support of a trained therapist can make all the difference. With the help of the unconscious and/or a professional, you can come to a greater understanding of yourself. In the next section, we will talk about the rewards of dream analysis and what can be earned through this work. What does a fully integrated life look like? The viewer will be provided with information about what a life with the integration of dream and wake may look like. If you understand all the problems that you are facing, what is the next step and how can you move forward with confidence? What does it feel like to be able to stand on your own 2 feet? These questions and more will be answered in the next section. What if your waking life and dream world were not separate realities, but 2 halves of a whole, working in harmony to create a richer, more meaningful experience? Many people compartmentalize their lives, seeing their dream self and waking self as 2 completely different people, with completely different lives and motivations. But when you start to use dream analysis and shadow integration consistently, your conscious and unconscious minds connect, cease working against each other, and instead act as a high-performance team. How can such an integrated life result in self-actualization, and what does that journey even look like? One of the primary hallmarks of an integrated life is a greater understanding of the world around you, stemming from a deeper understanding of yourself. This manifests in several ways. First, there's increased self-awareness. You develop a greater understanding of your strengths, weaknesses, and motivations, which leads to more authentic and fulfilling choices in all areas of your life. For example, you begin to recognize your emotional triggers and develop more appropriate responses, rather than reacting impulsively or defensively. You understand that your reactions are based on past experiences that you have processed and now can address proactively. Second, enhanced creativity emerges as access to the rich symbolic language of the unconscious fuels creativity and innovation in all areas of life. No more writer's block, because your dreams will become a wellspring of ideas, guiding you towards innovative solutions and artistic expressions. Finally, improved relationships become a reality as greater empathy, compassion, and understanding of others stems from a deeper connection to your own emotions and shadow aspects. You are able to communicate more effectively with loved ones, navigating conflicts with greater ease and fostering deeper connections based on mutual respect and understanding, not fueled by emotion. Greater resilience and a stronger sense of purpose are also hallmarks of an integrated existence. Integration of shadow aspects and acceptance of inner conflicts leads to increased resilience in the face of adversity. You have come to terms with past traumas, understood the lessons within them, and developed an action plan to deal with similar situations in the future, transforming potential setbacks into opportunities for growth. Furthermore, alignment with your authentic self and the values that resonate most deeply leads to a stronger sense of purpose and meaning in life. You finally understand what you were meant to do with your life, aligning your actions with your deepest values and contributing to something greater than yourself. The integrated life is not a static destination, but a continuous journey of self-discovery and growth. It requires ongoing effort and a willingness to embrace the complexities of the human experience. Consider the case of Emily, an individual who struggled with anxiety and self-doubt. Emily used dream work and shadow integration to develop greater self-acceptance and confidence. Through consistent dream journaling and analysis, she identified recurring symbols that represented her fears and insecurities. By confronting these shadow aspects in her dreams and integrating them into her conscious awareness, Emily developed a more balanced and realistic self-image. She began to challenge her negative self-talk and embrace her strengths, leading to greater success in her career and personal relationships. She used specific techniques such as active imagination and dream re-entry to process her emotions and gain new perspectives, resulting in significant changes in her behavior and attitude. Or consider the case of renowned artist Salvador Dali. Dali was known for his bizarre and surrealist art style. Dali would sleep with a key. This technique involved him falling asleep in a chair while holding a key over a metal plate on the floor. As he drifted off into a light slumber, the key would fall from his hand, clattering onto the plate and waking him up. This brief interruption allowed him to capture the fleeting images and thoughts from his subconscious, which he then translated into his iconic artwork. This allowed Dali to have a constant stream of ideas that he could use in his art. It is a testament to his genius and understanding of the human mind. Dreams can also affect large organizations. A Hypod CEO had a dream of his company collapsing, with key employees leaving and major projects failing. Instead of dismissing it as a mere nightmare, the CEO took it seriously and decided to investigate the underlying issues within the company culture. He initiated open communication channels, encouraged feedback from employees, and addressed areas of conflict and dissatisfaction. By changing the culture of the business and fostering a more collaborative and supportive environment, the CEO not only averted the potential collapse, but also created a better and more profitable company. This example showcases how dreams can provide valuable insights into systemic issues and inspire proactive change. Even Carl Jung himself emphasized the importance of integrating the unconscious into conscious life. Discussing the story of the Red Book, one can see the visual representations of his dreams and internal visions. Jung embraced his unconscious and used the information gathered to better understand himself and the world around him. He understood that there was wisdom and knowledge to be gained from dreams. In summary, the key hallmarks of an integrated life include increased self-awareness, enhanced creativity, improved relationships, greater resilience, and a stronger sense of purpose. It allows people to function at a higher level with the ability to understand themselves and function at their best. This transformative potential of aligning conscious and unconscious awareness empowers you to live a more authentic, fulfilling, and meaningful life. Do these ideas resonate with you? Do you want to finally come to terms with yourself and take the next step? While the benefits of integration are significant and far-reaching, it's important to understand that specific archetypes can hinder the listener and actively keep them from reaching integration. In the next section, we'll explore one such archetype, the trickster, and its power to make us fall. What dream character has the power to make us fall and actively sabotage our efforts? As you contemplate the possibility of living a more integrated life, what steps can you take to begin bridging the gap between your conscious and unconscious worlds? And are you ready to take the leap and decide to take dream work seriously? What if the greatest obstacle to your self-discovery wasn't a fearsome monster or a hidden trauma, but a mischievous imp who delights in playing pranks on your ego? Is there a part of ourselves that, despite our best intentions, secretly wants to fail? Why is it that sometimes, even when we're on the cusp of success, we find ourselves inexplicably sabotaging our own efforts? This impish saboteur is often personified by the trickster archetype, a paradoxical figure who embodies chaos, deception, and humor, often disrupting our mislaid plans and undermining our carefully constructed sense of control. Sometimes, our dreams are trying to give us clarity, but the trickster can turn everything on its head, leaving us more confused than ever. The trickster archetype is not simply a villain, but a complex and multifaceted figure, serving as a catalyst for change and a reminder of life's inherent absurdity. The trickster's interventions, though often frustrating, can shake us out of our complacency and force us to reevaluate our assumptions. The trickster can represent a part of yourself that gets excited, but a part of you is also scared. It's a recognition that progress and growth aren't always linear, and that setbacks and unexpected detours can often lead to valuable insights. The common traits of the trickster include cunning, impulsivity, amorality, shapeshifting, and a fondness for breaking social norms and challenging authority. Breaking norms is their greatest strength, and often their greatest weakness, as the trickster operates outside the bounds of conventional morality and logic. The trickster operates through paradox, irony, and satire, forcing us to confront our contradictions and question our assumptions. It delights in exposing our hypocrisy and puncturing our self-importance, reminding us that life is not always as serious as we think it is. The trickster is not interested in being correct. The trickster is only interested in the present moment and the opportunities for mischief that it presents. However, the trickster archetype also serves as a warning about hubris, and it is often used as a way for us to look at our own arrogance. Being overly boastful or taking ourselves too seriously could be seen as an invitation for the trickster to step in and bring us down a peg. The trickster is also deeply connected to the shadow self. The shadow self and the trickster can overlap, but are not the same, as the shadow represents the repressed aspects of our personality, while the trickster is more of an external force that challenges our ego and disrupts our plans. Consider the case of a young entrepreneur who had a recurring dream of constantly being tripped just as they were about to reach the finish line. Initially, they dismissed the dream as a manifestation of their anxiety about failure. However, through dream analysis, they realized that the tripping figure symbolized their own self-doubt and fear of success. They didn't trust themselves and were scared of success. This realization allowed them to confront their insecurities and develop a stronger sense of self-belief, ultimately leading to greater success in their business ventures. Or consider a real-world example. A person makes a big business plan and is about to become wealthy, but sabotages it by being arrogant and unlikable. The trickster can appear in many forms, from clowns who may seem innocent, but are mischievous and enjoy chaos, to the coyote of Native American mythology, a cunning and unpredictable figure who disrupts the established order. Jung himself recognized the trickster as an archetype that embodies the shadow side of the collective unconscious, disrupting the status quo and paving the way for new possibilities. He saw the trickster as a necessary force for change, challenging our rigid beliefs and forcing us to adapt to new realities. The trickster is not looking for rewards, only to disrupt. This disruption, while often uncomfortable, can be a catalyst for growth and transformation. So, is there a way to contain the trickster? In essence, the trickster is a disruptive force, but also a catalyst for change and a reminder of life's inherent absurdity. The trickster does not care about your feelings or your plans. Its sole purpose is to challenge and provoke. However, while the trickster can be frustrating and unsettling, learning to embrace its energy can lead to greater creativity, flexibility, and self-acceptance. The trickster is about challenging everything that you are. Can you be open to that challenge? Can you be the trickster instead of it controlling you? Is it possible to be the master of chaos? As we delve deeper into the mysteries of the unconscious, we'll explore how to harness the trickster's energy for our own benefit, transforming its disruptive influence into a source of creativity and resilience. What if instead of fearing the trickster's disruptive energy, you could harness it for creativity, innovation, and personal growth? Instead of viewing the trickster as a purely destructive force, what if its chaotic interventions could be channeled into new and unexpected forms of creation? Embracing the trickster archetype in dreams is not about eliminating chaos, but about learning to navigate it with humor, flexibility, and a willingness to challenge your own assumptions, and to recognize its potential for sparking novel solutions and fresh perspectives. You will never truly master the trickster. It's about learning to manage the relationship and to understand that its disruptive energy can be a powerful catalyst for positive change, provided you learn to ride the wave of its unpredictable nature. So, how does one begin to tame the trickster in the dream world? The first step is acknowledgement, recognizing the trickster's presence in your dreams and waking life, and understanding that its antics are not random occurrences, but rather purposeful disruptions designed to challenge your ego and force you to adapt. What does it feel like when you know you are being tricked? Is it a sense of frustration, anger, or perhaps a grudging admiration for the trickster's cunning? Once you can identify the trickster's signature moves, you can begin to anticipate its interventions and prepare yourself to respond with greater awareness and agility. Next, question the trickster's pronouncements and motivations with curiosity and humor, refusing to take its pronouncements at face value and probing beneath the surface of its deceptive facade. Start to ask why the tricks are being played and what hidden agendas might be at work. Can humor really disarm such a powerful force? Indeed, a well-timed jest or a playful retort can often deflate the trickster's ego and reveal its underlying vulnerability. Improvise by embracing spontaneity and adapting to unexpected twists and turns, rather than resisting them. The trickster thrives on disrupting your plans, so the more rigidly you cling to your expectations, the more vulnerable you become to its mischievous manipulations. If you start on one path, but are diverted, see where the new path goes, and what unexpected treasures might lie hidden along the way. Can you ever truly plan for chaos? Perhaps not entirely, but you can cultivate a mindset of openness and flexibility that allows you to adapt to unforeseen circumstances with grace and resilience. Finally, integrate. Recognize the shadow aspects of the trickster within yourself, accepting your own capacity for mischief, deception, and rule-breaking. The trickster is not an external force, but rather a reflection of the darker, less socially acceptable aspects of your own personality. What parts of the trickster are already inside of you? Do you have a hidden penchant for pranks, a secret desire to defy authority, or a tendency to bend the rules to your own advantage? We all have the capacity for chaos, and it is about learning how to use it properly, rather than denying its existence. These are just tools for the dreamer's perspective, not solutions, but rather methods to integrate the trickster. Consider the case of a woman who constantly had the rug pulled out from under her in her professional life. Every time she was on the verge of a promotion, a project would fall through or a colleague would undermine her efforts. Initially, she felt victimized and resentful. However, through dream work, she began to recognize the trickster archetype at play, not just in the actions of others, but also in her own unconscious tendencies to self-sabotage. She realized that she was afraid of the responsibility that came with success, and that she was unconsciously creating chaos to avoid having to step into a more powerful role. Once she recognized this pattern, she was able to pivot and go down a new path she would not have discovered otherwise, finding fulfillment and success in a completely different field. Or consider a dream scenario. A dreamer sees someone tricking them, leading them down a false path and stealing their possessions. Instead of reacting with anger and resentment, the dreamer decides to engage with the trickster figure, asking questions like, "Why are you doing this?" and "What do you hope to gain?" Surprisingly, the trickster reveals that it was testing the dreamer's resilience and resourcefulness, and that it actually had valuable information to share. This leads to an unlikely but helpful alliance, where the dreamer learns new skills and gains access to previously unavailable resources. Jung writes, in Psychology and Alchemy, about how the trickster appears to integrate society and culture, stating that he is a forerunner, or he is found lingering on in socially inferior levels. The trickster is often found in those positions because they reflect back to the conscious mind what it cannot see, what it refuses to see, or what it does not want to acknowledge. So, how can you apply these techniques in your dreams? If you encounter a trickster figure, try asking it questions like, "What are you trying to teach me?" or "What am I avoiding?" This can help you uncover hidden fears, limiting beliefs, or unacknowledged desires that are holding you back. Use the methods of dream analysis to discover more information and to understand the trickster's motivations and intentions. Practice embracing the unexpected in your waking life, such as trying new things, taking risks, or challenging your own beliefs. Get out of your comfort zone and push yourself to embrace new experiences, even if they seem daunting or uncomfortable. Explore your own shadow side, identifying the parts of yourself that you tend to disown or repress. Journal and do shadow work to bring these hidden aspects of your personality into conscious awareness. In essence, harnessing the trickster's energy involves recognizing its presence, questioning its motivations, embracing spontaneity, and integrating its shadow aspects. The goal is not to eliminate the trickster, but to work with it, to learn from its disruptive interventions, and to transform its chaotic energy into a source of creativity and resilience. However, without balance, the trickster takes over and nothing gets accomplished. It's important to maintain a sense of balance and not become consumed by chaos, or else the trickster will overtake your life. What happens when the chaos becomes too much? What happens when the trickster consumes all of our actions and our intentions? What happens when the chaos is not balanced with order, and when the pursuit of novelty and excitement leads to a loss of focus and direction? What happens when the playful pranks of the trickster evolve into a full-blown coup, and your life spirals into a chaotic circus with no ringmaster in sight? All of us have a trickster inside, and the less that trickster is embodied into conscious life, the more chaotic and destructive it becomes. Unchecked trickster energy can lead to a state of psychological disarray, characterized by impulsivity, recklessness, broken relationships, and a profound loss of direction. The lack of rules becomes the new rules, and it seems like nothing can be done to stop it. What was once a fun little joke has turned into your whole life, and there is no way out. While controlled trickster energy can be helpful for new insights, an out-of-control trickster is like being a puppet with cut strings. You are completely at its mercy, and it leads you down a path of destruction. There is a fine line between chaos and madness, and it is very easy to cross that line. It starts with impulsive decisions and then escalates into recklessness and engaging in risky behaviors with no regard for the consequences. The need for instant gratification overtakes everything else, so that there is no consideration for future ramifications. All of the decisions you make are short-sighted, and they don't seem to stop. Broken relationships follow as the trickster lies and betrays the trust of those around you. Friendships and relationships are damaged and cannot be repaired. The wounds are too deep, and no one wants to be around the trickster anymore because it is too chaotic and destructive. The focus becomes instant pleasure and not the big picture as relationships crumble around you. The destruction becomes not just physical, but spiritual. There is an erosion of values and a descent into addiction and self-destructive patterns as one turns to substance abuse, compulsive behaviors, and other self-destructive patterns to numb the pain of the out-of-control chaos. What was once fun and chaos has become an addiction, and there is no end in sight. A little chaos can be beneficial for creativity and new perspectives, but too much chaos leads to destruction. Consider the case of an individual who had no boundaries, leading to the destruction of multiple relationships because of lying. They couldn't maintain friendships because the lies were too much to bear. The trickster had taken over their life, and they were constantly creating chaos and drama. Or consider a dream scenario. The dreamer is running a business, but cannot seem to stop spending their money and has multiple dreams of the business collapsing. Eventually, the business does collapse because they are out of money, and their spending habits led them down a path of destruction where they were left with nothing. Perhaps the best-known real-world example is the Wolf of Wall Street, who used chaos to make a lot of money, but ultimately lost everything because his actions were immoral, unethical, and eventually illegal. Jung writes in Psychology and Alchemy about how the trickster appears to integrate society and culture, stating that he is a forerunner or he is found lingering on in socially inferior levels. The unchecked trickster can become a destructive force, leading to psychological disintegration and a loss of connection to the self. What does the true self want? It's important to ask this question, because if the trickster is in control, then the true self is being suppressed, and it is not being heard. All of these ideas we have covered so far are all connected in that we need to learn to manage and work with archetypes, otherwise they become destructive. So, now that we have seen what happens when the trickster is in charge, what can we do about it? It is important to recognize the dangers of unchecked trickster energy, emphasizing the importance of maintaining balance and integrating this archetype in a healthy way. The goal is not to eliminate the trickster, but to put it in its place. Learning to harness the trickster's energy requires conscious effort and a commitment to self-awareness and self-regulation. What steps can we take to put the trickster back in its place? Is it even possible to go back to a life that is balanced? What would that even look like? Now that the house is destroyed, how can it be rebuilt? What does that even look like? Now that we know how detrimental an unhinged trickster can be, how can we restore balance to a life consumed by chaos and start down a path to what is true? Imagine your life is a shattered mirror, reflecting a distorted image of who you once were. The trickster has run rampant, and you're left picking up the pieces, wondering if you can ever put yourself back together again. The mirror does not reflect a true self, but a self destroyed by chaos and imbalance. Recovering from trickster overload is not about erasing the chaos or suppressing the trickster, but about reclaiming your inner authority, rebuilding your life on a solid foundation, and creating a new sense of purpose and meaning. This is not the end of the story, and recovery is possible. But what steps can we take to move forward after it seems as though everything has been lost? So, what are the actionable steps one can take to restore order? The first step in the path to reclaiming oneself is to acknowledge the damage. Take an honest inventory of the damage the trickster has wrought, both in your inner world and your outer life, without judgment or self-blame. This requires brutal honesty and a willingness to face the consequences of your actions. What relationships were ruined? What money was wasted? What opportunities were missed? This inventory is not about dwelling on the past, but about understanding the extent of the damage so that you can begin to rebuild. Facing these questions allows us to truly see what happened instead of living in denial. Once the damage is acknowledged, you have the knowledge you need to begin the healing process. Once the damage has been assessed, the next step is to establish boundaries. Create clear boundaries in all areas of your life, setting limits on impulsive behaviors, reckless decisions, and toxic relationships. But how do we create these new boundaries when old ones have been erased? This requires a conscious effort to identify your limits and communicate them clearly to others. Use the boundary setting techniques described in prior chapters to create new boundaries. This might mean saying no to requests that drain your energy, ending relationships that are harmful, or setting limits on your spending habits. Establishing boundaries is about creating a safe and supportive environment for yourself, where you can heal and grow without being constantly triggered by the trickster's influence. The ability to say no will empower you to make better choices that align with what you truly want. Another important aspect of recovery is to cultivate self-compassion. Practice self-compassion and forgiveness, recognizing that everyone makes mistakes and that you deserve to heal and move forward. Why is self-compassion so important for recovery? Because without it, you will be trapped in a cycle of self-blame and shame, which will only reinforce the trickster's power. The ability to be self-aware and be forgiving will allow forward progress. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a friend who is struggling. This might mean practicing mindfulness, engaging in self-care activities, or simply speaking to yourself in a more positive and encouraging way. If you constantly beat yourself up for your mistakes, you will only sabotage your recovery efforts and allow the trickster to maintain its grip on your life. Healing is not a solitary journey, and it is important to seek support. Connect with supportive friends, family members, or a therapist who can provide guidance, encouragement, and accountability on your journey. But what kind of support is most helpful during this time? Look for people who are non-judgmental, empathetic, and willing to listen without offering unsolicited advice. Seeking out a therapist that specializes in shadow integration can be especially helpful. These individuals can offer valuable insights into the underlying patterns that contributed to the trickster's takeover and provide tools and strategies for managing its influence. Having a strong support system will help you feel less alone and more empowered to overcome the challenges of recovery. Leaning on others for support does not make you weak, but rather it signifies great strength to reach out. The final step in reclaiming oneself is to reconnect with your core values. Reclaim your values. Reconnect with your core values and moral principles, making choices that align with your authentic self and your deepest sense of purpose. How do you rediscover values after acting against them for so long? It's time to reconnect with what truly matters. What principles do you stand for? What kind of person do you want to be? This might involve reevaluating your priorities, setting new goals, or engaging in activities that are meaningful and fulfilling. When you live in alignment with your values, you create a sense of integrity and purpose that makes you less vulnerable to the trickster's influence. And in turn, you are building a strong foundation that will stand the test of time. It is crucial to reiterate the importance of boundaries and being honest with oneself to ensure the cycle is not repeated. Without clear boundaries, the trickster will continue to exploit your vulnerabilities and lead you down a path of chaos. Without honesty, you will remain in denial about the extent of the damage and be unable to address the underlying issues that fueled the trickster's takeover. These two elements are essential for maintaining long-term recovery and preventing future relapses. It is also important to remember that the trickster is not an enemy to be vanquished, but a part of yourself to be integrated. By understanding its motivations and learning to harness its energy in a healthy way, you can transform it from a destructive force into a source of creativity, humor, and innovation. Consider the case of an individual whose life was destroyed by the trickster, who found solace in setting boundaries, which led them down the path of rebuilding. This person had a history of impulsive spending, which led to financial ruin and broken relationships. They began by setting strict limits on their spending habits, creating a budget, and avoiding situations that triggered their impulsivity. This allowed them to regain control of their finances, repair their relationships, and rediscover their sense of self-worth. Or consider a dream scenario. Describe the dream of a house falling apart, but with the dreamer working to rebuild it, brick by brick. This dream symbolizes the process of recovery, with the falling house representing the chaos and destruction caused by the trickster, and the rebuilding representing the effort and determination required to restore order. The dreamer in this scenario woke up with renewed hope and a sense of purpose, knowing that they had the strength to overcome the challenges ahead. Or perhaps a more familiar story is that of an individual who hit rock bottom and sought the help of a therapist, leading to a better and more fulfilling life. This person had struggled with addiction, self-destructive behaviors, and a profound sense of emptiness. Through therapy, they were able to identify the underlying traumas that fueled their addiction, develop healthier coping mechanisms, and reconnect with their authentic self. As Jung writes in The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, the shadow is a moral problem that challenges the whole ego personality, for no one can become conscious of the shadow without considerable moral effort. So, how can one apply these steps in their own life? Start small, focusing on one or two key areas where you want to establish new boundaries or reclaim your values. Don't attempt to fix everything at once. It will be too overwhelming. Be patient with yourself, recognizing that healing takes time and that there will be setbacks along the way. You will make mistakes, but that is okay. Celebrate your successes, no matter how small, acknowledging your progress and reinforcing your commitment to healing and growth. Write down daily wins, no matter how insignificant they may seem. Each small victory is a testament to your resilience and a step closer to reclaiming your life from the trickster's grasp. In summary, recovering from trickster overload involves acknowledging the damage, establishing boundaries, cultivating self-compassion, seeking support, and reclaiming your values, leading to a more authentic and fulfilling life. Review each step and create an easily understood system. While the journey of recovery can be challenging, it's also an opportunity to create a new sense of purpose and meaning, aligning with your authentic self and embracing the complexities of the human experience. What can be learned from the trickster? What positives can we take? Now that you are back on track, what's next? Now that we know how to rebuild after destruction, what does a fully integrated life look like, and how can it be maintained? How can we use our knowledge to move forward and ensure we are ready for future challenges? As we draw to a close, let us recall that we began by asking what our dreams are desperately trying to tell us, and if that lost language could be reclaimed. Through the understanding of symbolism, archetypes, and personal connection, what once seemed like random noise has emerged as a hidden method of communication, an invitation to a dialogue with the deepest aspects of our being. By translating the symbolic language of dreams, we discover a wealth of insight, a pathway to understanding what wounds need tending and what dormant potentials are yearning to be awakened. The core journey of dream exploration is ultimately a journey toward the authentic self, a voyage into the uncharted territories of our inner landscape. This requires navigating the complexities of the archetypes that shape our experience. The recognition and integration of the shadow, for example, allows for a connection to our authenticity, embracing the totality of who we are, light and dark. Balancing the masculine and feminine energies of the anima and animus, that inner dance of the soul, results in creativity, empathy, and harmony, both within ourselves and in our relationships with others. Even the chaotic energy of the trickster, when understood and managed, becomes a source of adaptability and innovation. Boundaries must be recognized and utilized as a tool, but sometimes the boundaries must be set by a support system. The willingness to ask for help along the way, knowing when to seek guidance from therapists or trusted friends, is a sign of strength, not weakness. As Jung writes, the shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. This integrated knowledge, the synthesis of shadow, anima, animus, trickster, and the wisdom of seeking support, results in a balanced life, a life lived in greater alignment with our true nature. What once seemed like a frivolous pursuit, a bizarre middle-of-the-night story, has become an invitation to the depths of the authentic self and now holds keys to unlock potential. The initial skepticism we might have felt towards dream analysis, the notion that it was mere fantasy or wishful thinking, has transformed into an appreciation for its profound psychological value. No longer are dreams dismissed as meaningless ephemera. Instead, they are recognized as vital messages from the unconscious, offering guidance, healing, and direction. We began by searching for meaning in the often turbulent waters of the unconscious, and we end by recognizing the transformative impact this understanding has on our waking lives, freeing us from mental stress and leading us toward a more fully integrated existence. This circularity, the journey from skepticism to illumination, highlights the growth and discovery made possible through dream work. The dream world is not separate from the waking world. It is a reflection of the self, a mirror held up to the soul. By looking into that mirror, one can see what must be healed, what needs to be acknowledged, and what is waiting to be embraced. The struggles we face in our dreams, the anxieties, the fears, the longings, are not unique to us. They are a universal human challenge, echoing across cultures and throughout time. It is through our darkest hours, when we confront the monsters of our own making, that we can ignite the spark of our authentic selves, forging a path towards wholeness and integration. In facing the darkness, we allow in the light. What will you do with this knowledge? How will you choose to integrate it into your life? The journey does not end here. It is an invitation to continue the process of dream exploration, to delve deeper into the mysteries of your own unconscious mind, and to integrate this newfound knowledge into your waking life. Record and analyze your dreams, and you may soon find what treasures your unconscious mind holds for you, the symbols and stories that reveal your deepest truths and guide you toward your highest potential. The path to a more integrated and authentic life, a life of greater meaning and purpose, starts with a single dream. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the hidden psychology of dreams.